4:30, let's open the Woods County Council meeting. The pledge, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So first on the agenda here, let's approve the meeting of June 27th. I think there was a addition or corrections made that was emailed to us also on the a few days later. So anybody have any questions or additional changes to the meeting? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion to accept the minutes as prepared for June 27th.
So moved.
Charmaine made a motion. I have a second.
I'll second.
Sonia seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
I wasn't here at that meeting. So
Probably should.
no, yeah, no, so
Okay, first on the agenda here is the coroner, Katie Shook. You want to come up and introduce yourself to the public?
Yeah, my name's Katie Shook, and this is Tony Matthews, the Chief Deputy Coroner, and I'm the coroner for the county. I was gonna ask, did you guys all receive that proposal in the email? I would say opposed to me kind of reading through what I had. I didn't know if you guys had read through all that, if you had any questions to me directly, instead of just pushing this back to you. I think I put my own thoughts into that.
If anyone has any particular questions,
I do.
why don't you start?
Okay, so, well, before I go over what I've got here, so last year, if I remember right, you came in and we had a part-time person that we made more full-time.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
full-time, part-time position, however we want to label that. And then instead of the standard 3%, everybody, including yourself, got 1,000.
Right.
Okay, so my question, I guess, from that, what has changed from last year to this year that we're asking for more money?
Just that no one has really asked for more than that 3% in the past, probably 16 years that I've been around the office, and just how much more work's involved with the education and the training and getting more into it. From my standpoint, we're all driving our own vehicles to all the cases. We're not really insured for any of that. We had to go to all the training with using one of our vehicles. I know we get reimbursed for mileage, but just what happened to me going to this past training, a rock hit my windshield coming out of Indianapolis, and I had to go get that fixed. And I asked if the coroner's office could be reimbursed for that for my vehicle pay. They said, no, my insurance is responsibility for that. And I just don't know, in comparison to other offices like the sheriff's department, they have their own vehicles to go to training, their gas is reimbursed, whether they're on duty or not, to do all those things, and they just kind of wrote that off to you. And not that it was a huge expense, but it was something I felt like they could have covered just because I had to take that vehicle to training. It just seems like that, all our gas to and from cases, the price of living's gone up, price of gas has gone up. I mean, that's obviously changed for everybody across the board. And our office compared to what other offices are making, I know I referenced the sheriff's department in here, but the sheriff's, his salary alone, not including using the vehicle, gas, oil changes, all those types of things, any repairs in their vehicles, that his salary is more than our whole combined budget. Salaries, autopsies, removals, from the scene, all those types of things. So, I mean, maybe nothing's changed as far as that, but I just have researched things more in that way just to see that I don't feel like we're being reimbursed for what all that we do and for our own personal expenses. So,
Because a struggle that I have is I think it's hard to compare one department to the next. I think that is a struggle. Now, if you're comparing a different county coroner to DuBois County coroner,
right.
that's a fair comparison to me.
I think-
We're if we're gonna have everybody compare the share, we're gonna be chasing all day long, and that can't be happening.
You know, I had to think to that, some of the county, like Vanderbilt County, I mean, their offices are full-time. We're very lucky here that we can use the funeral home for calling these, or not just our funeral home, but Nos and Son in Huntingburg and all the county funeral homes that come make removals for us, so we can do the autopsies in those facilities. We have one pathologist that's covering this area, and he's close to retirement age. He knows everyone on our office is what he still comes here. Once he does away with doing autopsies here, we're gonna have to somehow get travel to Evansville or Bedford to their morgues, and we're gonna have to staff, probably a full-time person to travel, get those individuals transported there for the autopsies. You have to staff the autopsies, be able to take pictures, get those records, and have the body transported back whatever funeral home they're going to go to. And I mean, that's gonna be a lot more money put into a budget, and that's probably in the pretty soon near future, once that pathologist is done serving the county. Because there are, forensic pathologists are in a big shortage right now. The one that's staffing Vanderbilt County, he has to get his hours in Kentucky first before he does autopsies there in the evening. No, it's just gonna be a lot more intensive as far as this department, what we're gonna have to do. If you have anything to add to that, but that's why I can compare one coroner's office to the next. We're very fortunate. We have the funeral homes to work with right now.
Usually when I look at things, I try to do population. When I compare county offices to county offices, I feel like Vanderbilt County, probably, I don't ever compare, because I feel like they're a lot larger than this. So, I think that's I don't think that's a fair comparison in my eyes, because we have other departments that are always asking for money so if we're always gonna compare with somebody larger, we're always gonna be behind.
But we're just probably one day away, or it could be a day away from having to have a full-time office of that pathologist gone. There's no way that our people that work for our department now could manage to transport bodies to another county. So
So you're saying that the coroner position would be a full-time position?
yeah. Otherwise, I don't know how it would manage unless it was a retired person or somebody like that doing it. So that would be all consuming to transport cases to Evansville and back all the time and to staff those autopsies there.
Well, I think the commissioners will have to obviously approve that if that's how it rolls, but I guess my whole, when we are asking for people or department heads to look at their people that are not, that may have been overlooked for pay. So this is, I feel like we took care of this last year, and now we're doing it again. So I think we lost track of, or maybe we didn't ask properly as to what we expect of our department heads, because I feel like we did this last year.
Well, I should have asked for more last year, because what I should have done after seeing how intense everything was to go through.
Because we've got other departments that haven't asked for anything, and they've said, hey, we're behind too, but they didn't. So we keep putting the same departments asking for money. We'll put ourselves in a situation that we're gonna have our struggles to get out of.
Isn't they even asked for more for previous years, is that what you mean? I mean, in like,
More than the 3%,
Yeah.
or more than.
because what we asked for last year, no one's asked for more than that for probably since the office has been.
I think what Katie's trying to say is that over the last 16 years, we've never really taken more than the 3%, which, you know, when you're only making $5,000, $6,000 a year, you're only talking, you know, $3 per page period every month. And it's probably been something neglected with previous budgets that we just never did go for it and ask for more money. This one here, we are asking for quite a bit more, but I think it's to equalize things out from the past where we have never really went forward and did that.
In our entire other budget, we're not asking for any more money within that. This is the only thing we're asking for more on. Everything else is staying the same.
Let's, like on a $7,000 salary, you're talking about $200 and some odd dollars a year, which is only about $8 a pay period. With the cost of gas and everything gone up, I mean, we're spending a lot more than that for 2 weeks in gas alone anyway. But I think what we want to do is try to correct from the past where we really lacked.
Okay, well, so not to be difficult, I'm gonna ask a question without being condescending here, but so what does it take so you don't come back next year? I mean, I'm not trying to be rude about it, I'm really not, I'm trying to be respectful. So if we approve this, or you come back in next year and say, hey, we're still behind, we need more, or
No,
is that what?
this pretty well takes care of it.
on your personal mileage that you're not reimbursed for? You know, you're saying you went on a trip, that's,
The training we do get reimbursed, but not for our corner runs that we go
okay,
on.
I guess, and we're, you know, we're the same way, and the commissioners are the same way, you know, we drive a personal vehicle, or we get it reimbursed. We raised that amount, last month from 44 cents to 49 cents. So I guess my question to you is, how many other miles do you drive? I mean, that, you're being compensated and you're at the higher rate now when you train. I mean, how many other miles do you drive?
You know, I've never really took track of that, you know, I mean, we're making trips up to Birdseye, you know, anywhere in the county, you know, but even like on a single case, you might make a trip there, sometimes you might have to go back again for a follow-up investigation, but then you're also going to be running to the funeral home for the autopsies.
You have to go pick up blood at the hospital if they,
I can't answer that because
I mean, is it 500 miles a year or 1,000 miles a year? Or?
You have an idea, Bob, of how many miles you think?
You know, like, we live on one side of the county, when you gotta go to the other side of the county. There's times we have to go back to meet the family again.
Sure.
And then we have to go to the funeral home, wherever the funeral, the autopsy is gonna be at. We still might have to work with the police departments, go out with them sometimes. You know, it adds up some, I've worked one case where I used one tank of gas just in Du Bois County. One tank of gas because it took me all night to work that case. Now, sometimes like we work with CSI, the State Police Crime Investigation Scene, when they work a case, it could take 4 to 5 hours and they don't want nobody in that house. If it's wintertime, I'm keeping warm in my truck.
Well, thanks.
And that does happen quite more than you think it does.
So is there some reason why we are not paying mileage for them?
They had kept, well, not since I've been coroner, but when Bob Beach was coroner, I know we had us keep track of miles for a little while, but I think it just got to be too intensive. I mean, running so many places, I mean, it's.
So you could,
Yeah, yes,
You're not.
yes, ma'am, right.
okay. Well, if it's that important, then I would think you would want to keep track of your
And that's the
mileage.
last time we had these meetings, Commissioner Blessinger in the commissioner's meeting. So we told him we were driving our own vehicles to the scenes. He said, what do you mean you're driving your own vehicles? You don't have county vehicles? I just don't understand how the commissioner did not know that. And then he said he was gonna look more into it as far as us being covered in insurance and that type of thing. And by the time we got to the next meeting, we asked him about it. He said he never said any of that.
That's,
Should be on video.
So,
but I mean, there's no reason why you can't keep track of your mileage in
right,
here.
but how could they not realize that we're driving our own vehicles?
I can't answer for them, I really can't. But mileage, you could
Yeah,
keep track
right,
of.
exactly.
I think we talked about this last year too, and it was like, no, that's really good.
We're not, I don't think when we were here. I know Bobby Beach had it done, I'm not positive, I'm not gonna say either way.
But I mean, it's available to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be another area that if you start keeping track of it, we may need to put more money into that area.
But whenever we talk about that, and those miles could be tracked outside of even when we're on call, but a lot of times whenever all these things are happening, even not during our on call time, so all the guys plus myself, besides our on call time, we're having to run to meet with law enforcement, having to go to the hospital, pick up blood kits, having to go to the autopsies, that's all time outside of our on call time, that's additional work. Which will help us adding 2 new positions on last time to help cover some of the on call time, but outside of that, we're still working more than our shifts. In addition to talking about the mileage, so.
The only thing, another thing, I was just researching on, you know, counties our size. You see your budget, you know, the way I look at this, or the way the county book says, it's, you know, on counties our size, there's the average budget is about $79,000. Ours is 120-some thousand.
Okay.
So I don't know what that difference is when you got the same size of a county. Maybe you could help us.
A lot of it is with the autopsy. I think we do more autopsies here mainly because I think like we discussed before, we have the hospital here. A lot of these cases come from other counties or passing away in our hospital. If it's a vehicle accident, suicide, where they live at the scene, they bring them here. Again, so I think a lot of that's with the autopsy budget.
So these other counties may not have a hospital, you're saying.
Right, yeah, like Spencer doesn't, Pike doesn't.
those are all smaller counties.
Exactly,
These are
exactly, yeah.
sized,
Right, oh, I'm sorry,
like
yeah,
size 40 to 50,000
Okay.
people,
okay,
and that's where DuBois County falls.
okay.
So, I just, I just wanted to bring that up, because, it is a substantial budget compared to the other counties.
Okay.
And that's pay also. So,
Do you know those other counties that you looked up, if they have a morgue or not, by chance?
no, it
Okay.
doesn't get that detailed.
Okay.
This is just stats on.
Okay, because I know we're paying the funeral home here for the removal vehicle and places that do the autopsy too, and if those places have a morgue, then they wouldn't be paying any, facility use or removal use.
Okay.
Or if they have a removal vehicle, then they're not, that's what's being charged within their office, and we're paying outside of that, so.
So we pay Becker Police
Right.
to pick up on the.
And to use the facility for the, use for the autopsy, or if Nos and Son Mesa removal, then we pay them for removal and then pay Becker Police for the autopsies. Most of the other funeral homes now refuse to do autopsies at their place, but Becker Police has a cooler. We're the only one in the county that has a cooling facility, so they pretty well refuse to even do that. So we do the autopsy there, and then they have to come from the other funeral homes to pick the individual up there, so. And the funeral home is staffing people a lot for us too whenever we can't have anyone there, so I mean, that's a fee that's no one's having to pay, so.
Okay, so I just looked up in this 2022 fact book. They compile all the salaries and stuff. And then so DuBois County is lumped together with DeKalb, Cobb, however you pronounce it, Henry, Jackson, LaGrange, Lawrence, Marshall, Noble, and Shelby counties. And the lowest is DeKalb, which is about 14,000, 13,999, and the highest is Shelby, 27,263. So if you take those two, if you take that and average it out, it's 20,500.
What I did is threw the top and the bottom out, to average it, and then it came up to about 18,000. But again, it's what the function, just like she's saying here, it's the function of how they operate. If they don't have a hospital, they don't do the running or whatever.
I'm not understanding what you say, is that their
That's
budget?
their wage for the.
Oh, their wage for the coroner?
It's
Okay.
I guess in most counties, it's an elected position, so.
Yeah,
Sherman, where is Hades County? Because aren't they,
There's,
population, aren't they
I think there's
close to ours as well?
well,
there's
they
some-
do their-
30 some? I thought I looked them up, and I
Davies
thought
is-
theirs was like 18 or 19,000 or something.
Davies is between 30 and 35,000.
It was 35, so that's quite big.
What's
No,
the
they're talking about the
coroner's,
population of the county,
what's the coroner's wage?
And Davies, 20,206.
where they're not doing near as many cases there, I don't think.
Okay, let's
It's
see.
a lot smaller hospital.
So anyone else questions? Katie?
I guess I look at your letter and you said a small raise from last year. I felt like $1,000 is too small, I guess, for 5 people, 5 people. So,
I guess I was referring to per person, not the entire group together.
okay. I don't know how to.
As the council, do we want to make a decision now, or we want to take this under advisement and do it during budget time? Seems like there's some hesitancy here to approve this, so.
Can I ask you, what you said the highest, or what was kind of the average? You said
The
19 or
average.
20?
The average of just the very top and the very bottom was 20,500. Then I since added them all up and divided it out, it was just under 19,000.
And ours is what, 16,250 or something like that?
Yep.
And
And then
with
also,
your increase, it would be 19.5,
Would
which would
bring
be
it
about
to
the average.
so of those 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, of those 9 counties, your salary is 1, 2, it's the 4th from the bottom, it's the bottom half. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and like I say, I threw the top and the bottom off, and then it came up to 18,000.
Well, I was looking at the population of 30 to 35,000 where Davies County is. The lowest in that group is 17,244. And the highest is 25,000.
So we're lower than the counties that are even lower in population than us.
It's interesting to see where, based on the population, how much of a difference there
Do
is.
you know if Davies County has more, or what are some of the other counties in there that you can maybe?
Clinton, Gibson, Green, Jasper, Jefferson, Steuben, Wabash, and Whitley.
You
I
know,
have to research, I'm not
you have to
sure.
research those. I don't know off the top of your head if they have the same facilities at their disposal as.
I think Dr. Jacoby that's coming to us goes to a lot of those counties. I know Woodbury County for sure, Davies.
He goes to Davis County, and now they do that local funeral in there, Davis County.
So they would also be under the same, once he
They do.
retires, they would
Right,
have to find someone else to do it or
yeah.
have a full-time person.
Let's, while you're here, let's touch on the other, Mr. Matthews, the $2,000 raise, and then all the other ones, 2,000. You hired a new person last year, right? Now, how is that working out? I mean, when did he or she come aboard?
She just got done with her training, what, month or two ago?
2 months
Yeah,
ago.
and she passed the board exam and everything, so she's fully working with us, so it's really helped a lot.
So tell us on why that's worth $2,000 more.
Well, she's we started her out at the exact same pay as the others, just because she's doing all the exact same functions. She had to go to training and everything. She was certified. She went out on cases with us, and she's attending the autopsy. She's actually filling in on some autopsies since she's retired, that some of us can't be there. And the only answer I had is she's doing the exact same thing as we are.
Okay, I guess how many hours would someone like that work in a pay period? Let's just take or a month or a week or.
No. I had that figured, I don't know if I had that on that other paper or not, though. I didn't look at it. I think a lot of those.
Here, can you give me 1 second?
Okay.
What kind of time cards get turned
I don't think they turn it. I don't know.
Turn the time card in.
I think it's like
It's just,
it's a salary position.
It's like we do. It's like us, you put in what it takes.
I'm sorry.
They do have scheduled shifts.
hopefully that's one better.
The thing, when I'm thinking about the other concern, how could a budget be 79,000, I guess, besides the autopsies that they would have their own place to do autopsy, they wouldn't have to pay ever
A week,
to
yeah.
use their facilities.
Just don't call.
But it would be a whole lot better.
I mean, how does somebody make 79,000 and we got 130,000, let's say? What's the difference? That's what I can't figure out the difference.
They probably don't pay, if they're not doing as many autopsies. They probably don't have your staff, they probably have a coroner, a chief deputy, and maybe a deputy. And then their autopsies would be much, much lower.
Yeah, a place like Davies County doesn't have near the autopsies that we have either, so it sort of surprised me that they're paying that.
the thing, a lot of these counties, they don't put all the autopsy money in their budget. They're constantly going back throughout the year asking for money. Because on Chairman One, we have no idea how many autopsies we're going to do. We pretty well guarantee you, we'll probably do 60 a year at least. And they're around $2,000 a piece. So
And that's another thing.
that's
He has it.
$120,000 that we probably got in our budget
Yeah.
for autopsies.
And I know Dr. Jacoby, he's really good. If he's already in the area, he's prorating that mileage that he's charging us, and those autopsies cost less. So he's not even charging us the full. If he's already here for one and doing another, the price is less. And he hasn't even upped his prices as far as gas or anything like that with the price of living changing. So we're fortunate there. But looking at that schedule, there's some weeks that we're on 48 hours on call if we work the weekend. Other weeks it probably averages between 24 and 36 hours.
You're on call.
Right, so then plus the work on top of that, attending the autopsies and all the other running we have to do, and phone calls and faxing reports, and, which I know what all goes along with it, I'm not complaining. I mean, I love what I do, so.
Okay. Any questions or any concerns or?
Wouldn't you think we're kind of unique because you have a lot of people that work out of county in this county that potentially you have to perform an autopsy on, or I don't know how many autopsies are ran at like a living, assisted living type place, but it seems like there's a lot of people that are from out of county or in DuBois County because we have nicer facilities or places to work.
Well, even just, well, I think we talked about this last time, too, even having Holiday World that close to when things happen there, they're brought to our hospital, or, you know, having the jail, if something happens there, you automatically have to do an autopsy on one of those individuals by law, and yeah, you're exactly right. We've had numerous amount of truck drivers in the area that normally are around that were coming through here to work just to stay. And normally, I mean, it's not necessarily protocol, but if someone comes from out of state and their family doesn't live here and it's like a truck driver or something like that, it may be a natural death, and we know that, but we're still going to autopsy because you have to cover all your bases, not really knowing who we're dealing with. So, and the company that they're working for.
Because a year ago, you were in the national news doing autopsies
Yeah.
for Holiday World, so you got a good point. I remember that. And
Yeah.
that happened in Spencer County, but you came up here, so
Yeah.
I can see your point.
Does every death have an autopsy?
No, absolutely not, no. And there's certain laws surrounding it too. I mean, if they're under 18, you have to do an autopsy. Anything that's unexpected, even if maybe they're 95 years old, they pass away home, they're not on hospice, they haven't seen a doctor in 10, 15 years, which happens more than you think, we still have to autopsy those because there's nobody that's gonna sign off on that death. Any accidents, homicides, suicides, those types of things, any infant deaths.
So we don't charge, like another county, even though it happened there?
And that was my discrepancy, I'm sorry. So, that whenever the accident does happen in another county and they're brought into our hospital and they die here, they are gonna charge, the pathologist charges that county for the autopsy, so I'm very sorry, that was my fault. I misspoke
But you
there.
don't get to charge your time to them.
Right, but, and then also the funeral home still charges us for the facilities used and for the transportation, so that's still billed in our county.
Well, how do we want to handle this tonight? Do we want to just table it until we want to decide here what we want to do?
You know, last year was, we know this is low. We knew that, you know, talking to you last year, you know, different things. But, and I thank you for your service. I mean, you guys are a dedicated group and everything. I don't have a problem with that, so.
Using your own vehicle.
Yeah.
Taking that risk with your own vehicle. You know, like, if they did track their mileage, I mean, I don't know how much of a difference that would make. But I mean, this
It would
way,
make a big difference.
well, what I'm saying though is if they want to use this money to reimburse themselves for gas, you know, then, like, I've had to track my miles before, and it's a pain in the butt.
It
You're
is.
just popping in the car, popping here, popping there, oh my gosh, I forgot to write down my mileage again, like, you know, so I can't turn that one in. You know, like, it just
I'm
happens.
super anal, honesty, so I don't
I'm
ever
the
get
same
down to the.
So I don't feel like I wouldn't track my mileage,
Yeah.
because if I couldn't be 100% honest about it, then I just wouldn't do it.
And when we talked about tracking extra time, where, I mean, how do you gauge your time if you're on the phone you have to get up in the middle of the night, you're on the phone with a family member, you're gonna write down 5 minutes. I probably would, and then that's not really gonna add up to a whole lot, that's just I'm just that honest. But, I mean, how do you start to track all that extra time above the on-call time, so.
And that's part of it, because you are getting called all hours of the night. Tony, you've been at this a lot of years.
Yeah,
and
Bob's,
stuff.
Bob's been doing it for 30-some years, so I mean, yeah, and the other Bobby's been close to 30 years, so there's a lot of experience in there.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we get a call in the middle of the night to go someplace, you know, that's probably not one thing on our minds is right now how many miles we got, but we're thinking about what we're getting ready to step into there.
A lot of times we
Mine's
deal-
close to us.
we've dealt with Indiana Door Network, I mean, they will call us, you may have a death at 10 o'clock at night, they will call at midnight, 3, 5, 7, I mean, they're not very good with their communication within their own department, but whenever we have organ or tissue donor, we're dealing with those people, and they will call 5 or 6 times a night, so.
And also, if you're sitting in your car for 4 hours with it running, there's no mileage to you. You're just running gas for 4 hours.
But Bob's the one that does that, I stand out.
Do you do that when it's 96 up?
I don't know if you remember several years ago on Newton Street when that one house burnt down, so there by the Yamaha place. It was like 0 degrees that morning. I was going to church that morning at 6 o'clock. There's Bob. He's working out. He's standing out in the middle of the road. The temperature and the firemen, all their equipment was freezing as they were trying to hose the house down. I guess maybe that's why he sits in his car and how he does it.
I wised up.
Okay, so any other, are you ready, you guys ready to? So I guess I'll entertain a motion. I guess we better do these, or I guess we don't really need it, we just need a hand approval. Let's just take Katie's first then. The corner. I mean, she's asking for $3,250 additional. So,
I would give that to.
all in favor? So, and then let's take the 5, I think the 5 other ones, you know, that Tony and the other 4 are all the same, isn't it? It's all $2,000.
Yes.
So, all in,
Well, Tony's different.
is Tony's different?
Tony's different than.
No, they're all the same, yeah.
$2,000, it's just a different percent, I think.
There's a 6 there instead of.
Okay.
It's $2,001. No, I think it's probably a typo.
Don't mind that, say.
Rounding up, I think, probably.
Oh, yeah.
See, Tony's making
Tony's
more now,
97, this is 92. And the rest are 92.
but he's making more now.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a change.
He's making more now, so.
Right.
Yeah, 2,000, I mean, I think it's correct. So, we ready there? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And, so, approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you guys for your service too. Get a lot of headaches sometimes.
What are you talking about?
You got it,
As
appreciate
a county council.
I hear a lot of complaints. Thank you.
Thank you.
My idea was-
Brett, are you ready then?
All right.
We're running a little behind.
Okay, I've got 3 items. So the first one is on Cusco Road South, that we have a pipe that's 45 feet to the ground that is crushed, falling apart. Commissioners and I went through, we found a product that has structural stability. It's a liner that goes inside, that's got structural stability. It's not a slip liner, it slides in, or a blow-in liner. Because there's so much weight above it, everything's moving, we gotta find something structural. If I would dig down and replace this, it could be upwards of $1 million to get this done. This company out of Iowa has given me a proposal for $150,000. I'm asking 200 because we still have to buy concrete to go down in the hole, put the liner inside of it. There's other things we might do, some equipment rental, on and things like that. So that's why we're requesting this money.
So how long's it been crushed?
Known about it for a few years. I've been keeping my eye on it, and it's finally to the point that I found a product that works, and it's time to get it done. I've been looking for a product because there's all kinds of products out there, but with it being this deep, it's hard to find one that has structural stability to go in the hole and still have strength to it.
Okay, so I'm thinking because Code South, that's the one that goes past the Patoka.
Dam. Yes, it's before you get that. It's south of there, heading down the hill. It's right there. You would not know it's there. There's two big ravines, there's a pipe underneath there.
So how does this product work? I mean, if it's trash, we slip line, had these companies come in and say, you know, Huntingburg and do sewer laterals, but you couldn't do it with crushed pipe because it doesn't expand the pipe at all.
It doesn't expand the pipe. What this is, it's a 48-inch pipe, and they're gonna be putting a 30-inch liner in it. Due to where it's at and how much storage space we have, it will be adequate to get the water through.
Do you think the flow's still adequate with the reduced?
Just different pictures. This one doesn't really show you.
It's not agreement.
So it's basically off.
That was not me. I was not doing that. These guys took off down through the pipe, and I said, well, I'll see you on the other side, and I walked up and over, right?
Kind of like that scene in Forrest.
Yeah, I ain't doing that. So, what that'll do is it'll flow through to all the jobs. They'll shoot the middle, and then they'll still put the ground inside of it.
Any questions for Fred on that? I think the commissioners approved it, and that it's been advertised.
It has not been advertised. Oh, sorry. It has not been advertised yet, because I need to make sure I have money in place, and I want to create specifications for this. Because it being a $150,000 project, I will have to advertise it and everything.
Okay, so tonight, it's just a hand vote then?
It's been advertised, hasn't
You mean it hasn't been advertised for bids?
it? Sorry, different thing. It's been advertised for you to fund it, not advertised for me to bid. Sorry, I'm speaking the wrong way.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, we got the.
My advertisements are different than your advertisements.
So who's this commendable brave soul?
There was 4 of them that went down that hole. Yep.
Red was not.
I was not one of them. Confined spaces don't bother me too bad, but when they're 200 foot long, well, actually, it's like 300 foot long, then I'm like, I'll stay out.
Okay, so I'll accept the motion to approve that $200,000. Alex and Doug second. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Okay. All right, appreciate that. And the next thing is the additional appropriation for paving 3rd Avenue. The city of Jasper is paving 3rd Avenue from 164, not 164, well, where the water main work was done, sorry.
Yes.
They were redoing all that work, cleaning all that up. Well, the little bit that we've got to get downhill, we've kind of looked down, because we own a part from city limits down to the state highway. It's about half a mile, I think, roughly, don't quote me on that exactly. But we would need to, we're asking to get that done as well. We would look dumb with the bad section when they just did it, and it would be that short. So let's go ahead and get it done. It's the cheapest it's gonna be because they're right there. CalCar Paving got the job with Jasper, so we're gonna piggyback with Jasper and use their bid. I think what did Steve ask for here? It was $110,000. So they gave us an estimate of 90, but with the city of Jasper, the way they bid, they do have an escalation, de-escalation clause in their asphalt. And obviously asphalt, like everything else, is going up. So that's why we're asking for 110, because the price of asphalt has gone up since they gave the bid.
Any questions on that? I'll accept the motion to approve that $110,000. Alex, the motion, and second.
I'll second.
Becky seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
The next thing, is I don't know if Steve has talked to you guys about it, our part-time he's requesting a wage reclassification for our part-time workers due to the fact that we're having a hard time finding people at that rate. With it being 11/27 and 13/51, we're having a hard time finding anybody to even apply for jobs. We're asking for $1 more on the low end, so it'd be 12/27, and $1 more on the high end, so it'd be 14/51. Steve did present this to the commissioners. They were on board. They did get their consensus, move forward and talk to you guys. So here I am.
My only question, if there is more people, I thought, when I looked at the budget book, that have that classification. So I mean, that we would raise everyone then in that classification.
Well, I think whenever thinking back, I think a lot of us were under the impression that the part-time people were just like high school kids that were mowing and different things like that. So that wage is still probably good for a high school kid.
Yeah, we're even having a hard time finding high school kids to fill like spray. Steve is looking hard for somebody to ride along with Ricky, our retired guy that sprays some roadsides. It's much better to have two guys, and we can't find a high school kid to come and help them at that rate. We've talked to all the high schools, and they're saying they can go find a different job or a farm. They can perform better than that. So that's where that's coming from. My interns have never had said anything. I don't have one this year. I'm gonna try to get one next year. I've never said anything about the pay, but I do know that they can leave me. I've had 2 of them come for a year. Next year they're gone because they can make a lot more money than what they can make here. Now, mine is a little bit different because they're more here for experience. They're young kids right out of high school. You know, they don't want to leave mom and dad quite yet. They want to get a little older. Then they decide to move on. So I'm good with my side,
Right.
but I think I could be a little more competitive at the rates up a little bit too.
I don't know if we should change the rate, like the wage ranges, or if there should just be a different part-time that has more responsibilities and duties in the next category up. Does that make sense? Because that wage range is 1202 to 1531. That would fall into the range that you're looking for. It's a little wider than what Steve's asking for.
So we would put the highway department part-time people in that range, is what you're saying?
Possibly.
You know, I thought about that too. What's the range? Put the next one up.
It's 1202 to 1521. We've got labor trades. At the very top, labor trades one is the top, and then the section below that is
1202 to 1531, just.
do we want to totally, do the commissioners totally want to remove the part-time from LTC 1 up into 2?
Maybe an alternative, I guess.
I think we can probably consult Marky and see what his thoughts are as well.
They did talk about that, they didn't know that could be a possibility, that the whole thing needs to be moved, but they did.
Yeah. I'm speaking on behalf of Steve. He's out, his back's out right now. He's not feeling so good. So I'm speaking on his behalf, so I'm not as knowledgeable, but I told him I would bring it up.
So,
And I think the commissioner sort of made it sound like, well, let the council figure that out.
so the LTC too, has to be, it doesn't have to be a full-time person, does it? So what, I mean, they could just classify that person to that.
I think we need to check with Marky, make sure that his thoughts on reclassifying or creating a.
He commented and
Then they need to create one each.
Yeah, I don't think the solution is changing the wage range necessarily.
that's, I agree with that too.
Okay, so just make sure I get this right, because I don't want to mess this up. So we would move our highway department part-times, whether it's interns or weed sprayers to LTC 2. Is that what you're saying? Is that what I'm sure I don't say this wrong? Okay.
Yeah, but that's what I think would be the better move than to change the wage ranges.
Okay. Okay,
So we'll consult with the human resources.
and that's fine, that, just so I got something to go back and talk to him about. Okay. I don't think he's gonna have a problem with that, if that's where we wanna put him, I don't think he'll have an issue with it at all. Okay.
It just sounds like the job description, the requirements that you have of those people is higher than what they're currently classified.
Yeah. Because for solid waste process, and then cook, okay, I see what you're saying.
There's a few of them.
Yeah. Okay.
What are the site attendants currently classified as?
Two.
I mean, a little bit.
They're handling money, they're a little bit different, you know, they're handling cars and stuff like sometimes, so.
But what you guys are doing is a lot more physical.
Yeah, it doesn't look this demanding. Okay, I will go to him and let him and Mark in, and you guys, that'd be fine, just so I got some food. Okay,
Is that all you had?
that's all I've got, unless you guys got something for me.
Right, I don't think so, so thank you.
Right, we'll keep doing it.
Thanks for setting up the.
Okay, no problem. All right, I gotta go pick up a kid from the Y. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So Susan, we're running a little late here.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello,
Here.
Gary Wells, most of you may or may not know me. I'm here because I'm kind of the data guy, the guy that's done a lot of research on this problem that we presented to the commissioners, and now it's here. And so I will tell you, probably within a month or two of being in the VSO position myself as a paid county employee, I discovered quickly that we needed help, lots of help. So did a lot of research, ran the numbers. I've got some updated numbers tonight. I sampled 10 counties our size, and on average, those 10 counties have 1.5 employees in their VSO office. So we're at, I consider Susan 0.6. She works 8 or 3-hour days. So what I presented to commissioners back then was, there's 2 courses of actions we can take. One is make me full-time, or let's hire 2 VSOs, 2 part-time VSOs. What was a turnoff to me back then with being full-time is this job it takes a lot of mental fortitude. You're dealing with veterans who are suicidal. You're dealing with widows coming into your office applying for widow benefits. It's a lot to do it 3 days a week. So I didn't want to do it 5 days a week at the time. So I kind of leaned towards hey, let's take a look at having 2 VSOs, 2 part-time VSOs. So having said that, from a pay standpoint, out of those 10 counties, we're 7 out of 10. And we're 0.6 out of the average as far as full-time, FTEs. So I kind of share that data with you because I'm here to support an effort to have 2 VSOs if that's a possibility.
What did you mean by 7 out of 10? What was that?
Oh, so I pulled 7 counties that was the size of DuBois County, within a couple thousand within the population. So we ranked 7th out of 10 as far as what we currently pay.
What we pay.
Right,
Okay.
what we currently pay. So, and as far as, FTEs, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, about half of the counties are at 1 full-time employee. And there was 1 at 3, there was 1 at 2, and then there was 1 at 1.5. But when I averaged them all out, it averaged to be 1.5. So that's kind of where I came up with, And the thing is, in this office, and Susan will tell you, it is phone call after phone call after phone call. And I got to the point where my message basically said on my machine, I can't take your call today because of the volume of claims that are coming through, but I will respond to you within 48 hours. Okay, and she's there now. You have what, probably 40 open claims right now?
40 to 50.
So as her and I spoke before the meeting, it's like, gosh, if we just had somebody that can handle that kind of volume of work, because the claim process is an interview. It's not a Vietnam veteran, fill this out, bring it back, and it's done. It is a true, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes an hour. It's an interview because we discover sometimes that, they may come in for this benefit, but as we interview them, they may qualify for 3 other benefits that they did not know about.
And a lot of this is very, very personal information. We're talking about wartime vets that haven't even told their spouses half of this stuff. So when we're having a personal interview, we're all crying by the end of it half the time. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
And we as a county, just in compensation and pension, so the better job that she does and I do as a volunteer, the more compensation and pension comes back to this county. So right now, just 2 years ago, about $7.7 million came back to our county in the form of compensation and pension. In 2021, that's up $1 million. It's at 8.8 right now. And we're still just one VSO. So from a return on investment, it's really pennies to the millions is the commitment to the office. So I just wanted to share that information because I'm the one that ran the information down. There is on the VA website a file called the GDX file. It's the geographic. Basically, it's how the funds in the VA on any given county are distributed. So VA compensation and pension is a big one. VA healthcare is one that's growing and growing. So when we sign a veteran up for VA healthcare and they do what's called community care, they are now receiving instead of going to VA for care, they're going to a local establishment for care. So that's a dollar amount that keeps growing each year. So it's, one is, I think if we went to that second part-time person, we'd be in line with the averages of the 10 counties. But again, that second person would continue to grow that compensation pension that comes back to DuBois County. So
Question. That community health,
yes,
was that just getting started about like 7 or 8 years ago? I think, if I remember right, I think that was long.
it started out as I think through the Obamacare. There was it had a different name, but something was established then. But it's grown slowly, and today it's called community care.
So are there a lot less people that need to be shuttled to the VA?
There's on average, the answer to your question, yes, there's way less.
Okay, that's good.
When I was a VSO, we only had 5 guys that used the van. And it was the same 5 guys every month, every other month. So those 5 individuals also can use community care if they so desire. But a lot of times when you're talking about someone's health and they're used to the VA doctor that they've been seeing for 15, 20 years, we don't want to take them away from that. But I do see that number continuing to go down.
I just remember that was kind of a stressor at that time, to just coordinate the drivers for the bus,
It's still a big stressor.
or the van.
It is
And
still.
Susan, you're in charge of that?
Yeah.
Did I understand?
So, and actually the last month and a half, we've been down only to 2 drivers. People need to go on leave. These guys are all volunteers and we can't make them take the vets. So if they're not taking calls or accepting the task, then they're not home.
Yeah, we get a call from Susan now, call, email, text, whatever from veterans says, hey, I need to write. Even if they tell us a month in advance, sometimes the driver, we can't find a driver to do it. So it is a stressor because,
We've been soliciting, we've been trying to get more drivers, but
And they have to go through a lot to get qualified to drive. They have to go down to VA and that, or Louisville, and they get a background check,
physical.
and physical, and it's just not easy to, find somebody that wants to do that.
So, is that, what you wanna say tonight? I guess, you mentioned there, 2 part-time people. That's kind of what I was hoping that you would be willing to do. I would like, this is my thoughts and, share, I'd like to see Susan and have that office open 4 days a week. And that's 28 hours. And then you can go on and hire another part-time person to fill in if it's 21 hours or if it matches. I don't know, we'd have to see how that works. But, in lieu of having a full-time position.
Right.
Is that something you would be willing to?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, I would, any help I can get, even going full-time, part-time, extra, yeah. I'm taking cases home every weekend, trying to catch up, just to, these guys need help and I'm drowning, so I can use another body.
That would be great, because, if you would work 4 7s, that'd be 28, and then if you'd have another person working 21 or 28, we could fill that office when you have to be out. We cover lunch hours, we could, I just think it would be a benefit to the veterans.
For sure.
Anything to help.
Because anytime she and I in the past would be out for a visit offsite, because I had to visit a couple of vets that were not capable of getting out, and I know that's a liability too to even get out, in their home. So we stopped doing that. But when you do that, sometimes you miss out on 5 or 6 walk-ins that are in town, and so you got to have someone there manned all the time.
And I've come in on Fridays and Mondays just because other vets can't make it that time or widows can't come in. So yeah, I'll do whatever I have to do to take care of these guys.
I didn't want to surprise anybody, but talk to a couple of them.
We kind of talked about that last meeting, didn't we?
Well,
Or just
that's what
thought about.
we thought about, in lieu of a full-time position. So, I don't know.
And that would help you as far as burnout and those very emotional times.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, because PTSD it's hard on all of us. So yeah.
Because one thing that I wanted is to, how do we improve the office is how I felt like I wanted to look at it. And one full-time person, I guess in my eyes, I don't know that improves the office. I'm sure it does. But I feel like 2 part-timers improves it better.
Yes.
Yeah. So whether you guys can, alternate your lunches and, if you have to be gone or if you're out, I feel like then to your point earlier, there's somebody here all the time. And I think that is a huge benefit to all the veterans. So I'd like to see it run that way because it's better than, it's an improvement from where we're at. If it's wrong now, it's just an improvement from where we're at.
And I also think it provides a little more flexibility, having another person there to kind of move around if someone's on vacation or not available or something like that. You have that third person there to
And it's more
have a little more flexibility instead of having a full-time person that definitely is out for all that extra time.
It's a smooth transition when maybe you want to retire. I don't know. And then maybe it's just a better transition as to bringing somebody else in.
And if you're out sick, you still have to play catch up otherwise if you have somebody to help.
Well, it's funny because last week I was sick as a dog and I still came in. It was just, I can't not get the work done. I've got to do it. So, and I love this job. I love it so much. I didn't think I could have anything better than my military career, but this is pretty close.
We got lucky because Susan is retired from the military, 24, 25 years in the Coast Guard. She was a recruiter. She was a yeoman. A yeoman is administration. So being a recruiter, former she naturally understands the administrative side of the job, plus she was a former VSO, so. I've watched her work with veterans, and she's very passionate, and I think she's doing a great job. And I think this would take the office to the next level, or start that process,
And I do have to thank Gary because he's really stepped this up, so I've got big shoes to fill, so I'm just, I'm just taking this passion and just going.
His
going.
head's this.
Yeah. It's like a tennis match now. Oh, you want
So I guess, nobody has any objection on the council here. I guess we would have to, it appears to me we'd have to get the commissioner's approval to have the 2 part-time, the additional part-time.
Yeah.
And then we would, we would have to budget for that, and I think I don't know how we would start the hours, or if we would, limit the hours at first, or not limit them to 28, you know what I'm saying?
Well, wouldn't the commissioners be the ones that would set the hours?
Probably.
We
so.
can get a recommendation on what we think that, they would.
I mean, I think for budget time here, we'd have to figure out if they're gonna work 28 hours times, and then would the assistant make, what you're making per hour, that would be the other thing we have to establish here.
Yeah, and if that assistant was, at what I made when I was there, you're not fully doubling the budget. It's slightly less than double when we ran the numbers. So
You were making 1553 is what I had.
Right.
And then Susan's making 1798. So.
Yeah, that would I guess have to be. And I know I spoke to Chad before we came, and he's all about the 2 versus the 1 as well. So I'm not speaking on his behalf. I'm just we asked him before we came in, like we're not really sure I got the data. We weren't sure what we were presenting and what was going to happen. So he kind of gave us his 2 cents worth.
Even if it's an admin with what Gary was making, or 2 VSOs, whatever we could do, anything would help, anything would help.
So this is starting in January or?
January. So I think we could, what Gary's saying there, I think we ought to really vote on that the second person would be 1553 then. Well, wait a minute, this is gonna get an increase, and both of them would be 3% more than that, so.
For January?
Yeah,
Okay.
and Susan, yours would be the same, 3% higher.
I have to know that, it's so good.
I mean, to keep it, do we all agree on that, keep it consistent, right? So, I guess we could have just a show of hands if we approve those 2 numbers with a 3% increase. And then if the commissioners approve the second position, then we would she could put it in the budget book. Or get it in the budget. So so we know what Susan's making. So the other part-time would be 1553 plus 3%. So
That's $16.
so is it even?
Well, 1599.5. So yeah, it rounds up to $16.
Okay, so $16. So go show of hands and approve that. Okay. I don't see. I think you'd have to go to the commissioners yet and get that position approved, and then we would be in good shape for 2023. Thanks for
Thank
your
you so
time.
much.
Thank you.
And remember, if you have any vets, send them down.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, you guys.
Thank you.
Only until January 1st.
Okay, Mark. Sorry, I know you're running late.
Simple, just 5 minutes of all we need.
So,
Mark Dimitarski, just consider myself a concerned resident. So wanted to just share with you some information and encourage the council for hopefully some kind of representation at the upcoming Climate Leadership Summit. So I'll give you a little bit of background. Here's some information on it for everyone. And there's a couple websites like you should go to learn more. So last year, I should start out, I work with a lot of organizations, like the Sierra Club, like the League of Conservation Voters, and Hoosier Environmental Council, just to name a few. Did everyone get one? And last year, I was invited by the Hoosier Environmental Council to attend the Climate Leadership Summit. The Climate Leadership Summit was held at the University of Evansville. It was a one-day summit, and it was a big educational event on basically everything that's going on and programs that are available and help that's available for communities to engage with anything helping them with like climate action plans, or it doesn't even have to be a climate action plan. It could be just things that communities can do to improve in a small region, improve activity towards climate mitigation. And I think my biggest disappointment was I went to it and I met several government officials, okay, from different cities, from different counties, and there was no one represented from Du Bois County, and I couldn't. It was my first summit, so I didn't know why or anything like that. And I thought, well, maybe he'd never been approached about it or anything like that. So what I just wanted to do was encourage to consideration. If anyone has the ability to attend it, that would be great. But this year it has changed. It's up in Richmond, Indiana, and it's a 2-day event. So there's more time commitment. However, you can do it virtually too. I'm not a big fan of doing it virtually because the amount that I learned last year in Evansville, I wouldn't have been able to get virtually because it was all about meeting people in between sessions, talking to them. You learn something after the session, you get to go to the person, learn more, that type of thing. So what I'm hoping the county will get to eventually is that to me, it all starts with education. I've been working with a couple people. There's a really good a gal that lives in Huntingburg, Danny Schaus. I don't know if anyone knows her. She's with the Indiana University Environmental Resilience Institute, and her job is really to start going around, and she's fairly new to it, but very, very good at her work. But it's about putting educational programs together within the community, teaching high school kids, teaching government, and just teaching industry and everything of what can be done on a simple basis. So that's all I had. I wanted to encourage, hopefully, it's to any government official, it's free to attend. And again, even if you can't make it up there or something, if you could have representation via virtually, I think it would be great for the county. Okay?
Any questions?
So something like Purdue Extension or somebody?
Purdue Extension's involved with it.
Okay.
I mean, I learned so much because I didn't know the type of programs Purdue has in terms of climate science and everything, and then IU and their resilience program. It's fascinating, but I've had a chance to, I know like City of Evansville, they've put together their, pretty comprehensive climate action plan, and it's 50 pages long. I could send it to you because I have a copy of it. But the gal I mentioned, Danny, she helped put that together with Evansville. That's the other thing about it. There is a lot of free expertise help that's willing to come in and work with communities, work with the county, pitching the same thing to the city of Jasper too, to help put ideas together, plans, and education. Okay, any other questions?
Do they cover carbon credits for like agriculture?
There is. I'm still learning that and how all that works, but yeah, they cover
pretty pertinent to the area.
I just know, I look at it and the education, I don't know a lot yet, I'm just learning and learning. All I know is that the state of Indiana is unfortunately one of the worst states when it comes to environmental legislation for climate. And, you know, we're the eighth worst state for gas emissions in the country. I think I forgot what it is. It's like 300 and, I don't know, 300 and something metric tons of carbon dioxide that Indiana emits each year, which puts us, you know, I guess the top of it, you know, almost to the top of the list, or the eighth worst. So there's a lot of things there's a lot of positive things that are happening too. And most of it is happening at that county level and stuff. So that's why I'm hoping that eventually we can look at engaging. And I know that you've talked, I think I've been in meetings where you've talked a little bit about the need for a long-term strategic plan. And if that comes about, it would be great to have a part of that within the strategic plan of what we could do about climate mitigation and just improving the environment here. Okay? Thanks.
Thanks for the presentation.
Sure, yes.
Looks like next, Sheriff.
I think Sean's has for me, but I will go.
Sean, you
He's only giving me 3 minutes, so we're gonna make this quick.
Sorry.
He's got plans, I guess. Real quick, as you may or may not know, our immunization grant for COVID has gone away June 30th, so that is what I was paying my COVID overtime with. So now I'm only left with the rainy day fund for COVID overtime, so I don't really want to use more county funds, so I'm proposing today to move COVID comp for my employees to the new COAG grant. So that would take, I think, the salary adjustment, is that correct, or amendment?
You're transferring from other services out of the COAG grant to personal services?
Yeah.
Mhm. And then doing a salary ordinance for $10,000.
Yes.
Any questions on that? Otherwise, it gets moved.
Well, I guess my only question is like, what kind of things are you doing right now with COVID?
So for instance, if somebody comes late for a COVID shot, or we have a clinic or nights or weekends or something, the staff is still getting paid COVID overtime because we have the funds to do it, and we don't have a comp line item in our health budget. So rather than having them rack up all this comp time during COVID, we had been paying it out, and we were just going to continue to do that while we had the COVID money. This is just another COVID fund that we received. So we're switching the comp time from the immunization grant, which expired, to the COAG grant. We also have a rainy day fund, but I would think we would rather we use grant funds to do that.
Oh, totally. No, I was just curious, because I mean, you guys aren't responsible for like the contact tracing or.
Not anymore,
What's
but
really happening.
it's not happening very often, but just to keep the comp line item down, the health comp down, we're continuing to pay COVID out.
So with the home testing, do you hear then before testing? So
We
we
give
don't
it
have
out,
really
and we
any
have
idea.
absolutely no communication after that. None of those are ever reported. So we really don't have an idea of what's going on in the community anymore, other than what the CDC or the state says on their website. And I don't really know where that data
Yeah.
comes from.
How
They've
do they
never
know?
ever told us. Yeah, I guess they have some way of measuring. I know they're doing some type of wastewater testing where they can check the flow coming in from the sewage treatment plant. They can get an idea of the bacteria or viral load coming in, where they can tell if the trends are up and down. But I don't know if that's what they're using or not. And I'm sure there's still PCR tests being run. Those are all reported.
Questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to make that $10,000 transfer.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Becky, the motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Charmaine made the second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Or what was it, it was coming from?
Operating to person, or other services to personal services, but it's operating to comp time. And then I think we'll need a motion for that salary ordinance too.
I'll make a motion to approve $10,000 for this time.
Charmaine and Craig, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Who's that?
That's all I got.
All right.
Should I make it?
Thanks.
No, all
Sorry.
Thanks,
Thanks, have a good evening, Steve. I'll try better next time.
right, all right, thanks, Ron. Are you ready?
Yes.
A little chatty earlier.
That's all.
I should have worn coveralls.
Should I turn it up?
Yeah, I said in the back.
No, no,
No,
no.
no, don't turn it down because then it gets too hot.
They do make coats.
I do know for budget day, I will be. bringing
Sure.
customers.
We're gonna have you a copy, but you can have mine when I'm done.
Brooke, you can turn
I
it
have
down
my-
one more.
lucky robot.
So I kind of put these in order as what we were doing tonight. So the first one was for the sex offender registry training. And as you can see, I got what the training cost, the hotel, food, airline parking, miscellaneous. So the total for all of that comes up to $2,019.13. I'm gonna go ahead and ask for up to $2,500 to be spent just for incidental or something like that. As you can see, at the end of June, there was $37,465.68 in the fund. So this is just taking $2,500 away from that fund, so.
Who's attending?
Kenya, my administrative assistant, who does all of our sex offender registrations and all that. She
So is
takes
this
care of all
like a
that.
yearly thing? She's
Yes.
done this before, hasn't she?
It's a yearly thing, and it also is when they introduce all of the stuff that's coming down next year in the general line, so it's a good training. Last year, we sent her and our chief deputy, Chris Walkenberg, at that time, he went down to it, and then when he got back, he said, really, it all dealt with more Kenya than anybody else, so she's the only one gonna attend this year.
Any questions on that?
Okay, so there is a specific fund.
There is a specific fund. Yep. This is all paid by the registers.
So I guess we're looking just for a consensus to advertise. So does anybody have any other questions or otherwise show of hands at approving it? So looks like unanimous.
Thank you. So the next one was you have the jail, reclassification. So I think we had talked last week and I was a little bit wrong and I apologize. I think you all got the email a couple weeks ago and you got the old email instead of the new one. So this is the one that I should have sent and I sent the wrong one. So this kind of tells you where the 2022 budget is for these positions with a 3% increase and what 2023 budget is. And there's the Kelly Falkenberg, the chief jailer, the supervisors, and then the one position that I'd like to add, which is what we did for the deputies last year is the trainers, put them somewhere. But what I tried to do is the jail commander is statutorily set. So I kept him the same, what we have to. And then I didn't want to move I tried not to move any of the the jail officers, the second-class jailers, and the probationary, I didn't want to move their wages because that's a lot of moving, and I surely didn't want anybody to take a pay cut. So as you can see, some of them got moved up higher than the 3%, a lot higher than the 3%, just so that there's room between to add that another position and make it worthwhile for people to try to get it. If you have other suggestions or whatever, but this is what I put in the budget. I think Mike just wanted me to go over it and do my thought process before budget hearing.
Just looking here, the regular jail officers, there was nothing changed there, other
No.
than just the 3%, okay.
Yep.
I like that.
Which it just really affects 6 people. But I don't know if you want to just
Is
look at
that,
that.
is that spread, is that important to you or?
It is. I think what we did, we did that last year with the deputies and we made it a 3% difference. I couldn't figure out how to do a 3% difference and make it worthwhile because there wasn't a lot of leeway there. I mean, as you can see, the 2022 budget for a supervisor to a jail officer, there was nowhere to go in between there.
It's just, it seems, you know, it's a, I mean, I think it's quite a bit of money, you know, when you jump someone that much.
It is, yeah. I mean, but like I said, if you have a better idea, I think you got to have it worthwhile for someone to take that job, though. And statutorily, you can't move the jail commander down.
No,
And I don't want to take the jail officers and move them down. So it really, there was a huge difference between the jail commander and the assistant jail commander, or chief jailer, however you want to call that position. And that's where I tried to narrow that gap so that you could move the other ones up and have room to place the trainers in there. And, I mean, I'm all ears if somebody has better ideas.
Well, I mean, without the percentage, it seems like, the jail commander should make the most money and the chief jailer probably should make the most money,
Right.
as far as, but then why can't these drop down and be a percentage above the jail officer? And go up that way instead of coming down from the top.
You can, but you're only talking, again, I'm willing to listen.
Yeah,
I just didn't think there was enough room to make it worth your while to take an extra position, a supervisory position or an extra without.
And we really, as a council, we haven't really discussed this.
No, that's why
I wanted you to.
I just wanted to just give it out there, and if you have different ideas, obviously, I'm all ears. I just,
And I won't listen to anyone else. That's my only comment. I would rather see it come from the bottom up instead of, I think there should be a difference when, just like your salary versus the deputy, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
There should be a difference there. For the next.
yeah, and that's where I was coming from. I just didn't think between the chief jailer to a jail officer, I just didn't feel there was enough difference in there to make it a worthwhile for a person to take that responsibility. That's all I was just trying to do I just tried to bump her up a little bit so that there is more of a.
What is the jail officer, what would be the 3% for them?
For a jail officer,
Yeah.
the
50,000.
46,408, they're not changing.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see, you have jail officer trainers getting
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Above about 4,000.
And they're non-existent right now.
3,800.
So right now, there is no difference.
They're paid as a jail officer, yes.
Those two.
So if you did just totally even between the jail officer and the jail commander and split it, just even the same exact dollar amount between each one, it would be $2,200.15.
Difference?
No, $2,215. Like, each step.
Mhm.
So, like the jail officer, the trainers would be 48,623. Supervisors, 50,838. The chief jailer, 53,053. And then the jail commander would, I mean, if you do it exactly the same.
Yeah.
55,268. I mean, but you could leave it 266, that too.
Yeah.
This is gonna.
Whatever you guys think, and I mean, obviously, we're not gonna make no decisions tonight, it was just something that we wanted to talk about before, but,
Appreciate you coming in.
And how long is probationary again?
1 year.
1 year.
Do we have anyone there today in the probationary?
Yes, we do.
Do we?
Yeah. Probably a couple right now, I'm not even sure how many we have as probationary. Yeah.
I was thinking maybe the deputies, I was thinking of.
Oh, we got them too.
Do we have a probationary?
Yeah, we got one probationary that's out of the academy and one probationary that's still in the academy right now. That may be the new normal. And then, are you done with that one, or?
Anyone else have any comments on that, or? I personally don't see, I guess, the magic 3%, in some ways, I think that, like I said before, I'd rather see it come off the bottom. From a regular jail officer, maybe up 3% from that, then it's not quite.
I think what Charmaine was saying was probably, to me, that makes the most sense to me is having it split equally as you move up the ladder, which is fine. I don't know what that percentage is.
It's just, I don't like the big jump.
I don't get it, I get it.
Big jump.
It is.
That's a
I mean, that's a big jump, I don't know, anyone else got any comments, because we're gonna have to decide on this, at some point.
My only comment is, I'm looking at this salary and wages book. I mean, if we move to this, it looks to be significantly higher, not significantly, I mean, just higher than what some other counties do, but like Du Bois County, what's listed here is for a second class. So I'm wondering if some of these other ones are not listed, if it's probationary pay or if it's their actual jail officer pay. You never know on these books.
No.
The highest paid, just correction officer, jailer / turnkey is how they have it listed in here. Is that what you would consider?
I would assume so, yeah. I mean, everybody calls them a little bit something different, so.
46,000. 46, okay, they do have some, in Shelby County, it ranges from 38,000 up to almost 54,500. So they got a pretty wide range there. But other than that.
Which I'm sure that's the same as what we're trying to do here, where they have everyone included in those.
I mean, that's last year's numbers.
Because I know when I turn in the numbers to like the state, I list it all the way from probationary to chief. So it really just it's a wide range. I mean, for me, it would be 44,000 or 42,000 to 44 to 55 is what I would say.
Because, again, my thinking, just since nobody else wants to say anything, when you're the Randy Schnell or the jail commander, to take that job, it should be a lot more money. It maybe should be more than 3%, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Because if you move up the ladder, those top positions probably won't turn over until they, hopefully until they retire,
Yes.
Getting that. So I just think there should be a bigger step between the supervisor and a jail trainer and,
I'm good with that too. It's in my head, I needed a little more gap to put somebody that's a jail officer that's willing to be the trainer, to put their on the line to come in on their off days to train everybody to do it. And then obviously you can't, I didn't want to pay them what a supervisor gets paid because there's different responsibilities with that. So I wanted to, if somebody is the trainer, there would be enough of a pay increase to say, okay, I'll give up that now, or I will move on to the supervisor. An incentive to get to that next level.
So Sheriff, the jail commander, is he appointed by the sheriff? Is that a?
Yes.
So if a new sheriff comes in and he says,
yes,
I'm bringing my buddy Craig Rowley in.
Yes.
So the rotating chair.
Yeah.
And it is in a lot of places. It is in a lot of counties.
I'm joking, I didn't know.
I'm
just being hypothetical.
But no, that's very.
So then the jail, so is everybody, what's the hours again? Is everybody, is it a 35 or is it a 40?
No,
Rotating, oh, is it the 40?
they're the 12-hour.
Okay, and then the 8 gotcha, okay, thank you.
It averages out to be like 42 hours.
84 hours
84
in a
hours.
2-week period, yeah. So it's how you want it. I mean, there's 48 and 48 in 1 week and 36, yeah. So, yeah.
I think it averages out.
so I guess as a council, we have to decide, do we want to do this, first of all, the structure he's asking for, and then we have to set the wages. So there's two things there. I mean, again, if we want to put this on paper and have a set thing that we want to vote on, or how we want to do this, so. You got any ideas, advice, recommendations, or?
I'll give a little history. Okay, so whenever we restructured the deputies' salaries a couple of years ago, however that worked, I think it was tradition, whatever it was, that the matron and the jail commander all get paid the salary, their salaries were always the same as the lowest paid deputy.
Correct.
So that's what made this higher salary for the jail commander. If anybody was wondering how that gap got so big between the jail commander and the chief jailer.
Okay.
I think that's by statute, right?
Well, I think I spoke wrong. So by statute is the matron. I don't believe the jail commander is included in that statute. I don't believe.
But from what I understand, it's just what we
It had always been that way, yeah. I don't know when that started, how that started, or anything like that, but I know that's how it's been as long as I've known it.
We're hearing that many times from sheriff Lambert, that was the standard.
Thanks for sharing that. Well, I guess we're not gonna. No, I don't. You know, I think we need to see it. I like to see it. Okay.
I'd like to see it myself, leave it.
Play a little bit.
I can put that together for everyone. And then, share with the sheriff and what I'm thinking, and then if you want to, I mean, I could make a 3% spread, but I don't know if I'm gonna go for it, but, you know, I don't want that. I'd really rather, if there's 3%, I'd rather have it come off the top of the bottom, I mean, and go up to 3% if we're gonna hold on that, so.
Well, I can put that together if that's what you want to see.
Yeah, if you can do that, that'd be fine, get it back on, maybe we could uncomplicate all these other.
And then,
Yeah,
I mean, do you want to keep the jail commander at where it's at for 2023?
Yeah.
And then start at the regular jail officer and just go 3% and see where it comes out? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying the jail office, all the 7 jail officers would stay, 46,000
Yeah.
going on.
And then go
Go
3%.
3% up for the trainers.
I can give you that right.
Yeah.
The next one's 47,800.
The next one's 49,234.
49 what?
234. And 25 cents.
50,711.
I don't know. still seems,
And that's a 3%?
it still seems like a heck of a jump. You know, that's what I don't like about it. You know, I don't know.
What do you mean?
At the top, it's 1,000 more
Well, I
than
mean,
the
that
original.
person is gonna, those 3, 4 people are gonna be making about, I think, maybe not here.
No, we're at the, we're
They're only
at
gonna
the,
make about $2,000 more roughly speaking. Because they're making 46,150 now. And then, you know, if they would have just went with a 3% raise, I'd come up with 47,535.
correct.
So now we're gonna give them 49,235, so it's about, whatever it is,
1,500?
15, 1,600.
So the chief jailer is basically a 5% from last year, or from this year.
So the trainers are probably gonna make about 1,000 some more.
I did a 4% spread if you want that.
No, I don't think so.
6.7.
We could go,
I'm only one, if you wanna go, that's all right, I mean, I'm just telling you what I'm thinking.
I think I'd rather look at this a little bit more.
So why don't you refigure it on the 3%?
On 3%?
Off the bottom and give it and send it to us, so we got something to look at, because on the 8th, we're gonna be,
Okay.
it's gonna be hatchet.
Okay.
And we can decide. Is that all right with everyone?
I figured with the new numbers, if you go 3% up each time, with the jailer, the chief jailer, it's approximately a 5% from 22 to the 50,711. The supervisors from 46,150 to 49,234. It's about a 6.7% increase from this year to next year budget. If we do the 3% increase from each. So the trainer just basically adds 2% onto the other 2 above that ish.
I lost you there, Doug, sorry.
So if you go 3% up from the jailer to the jail officer trainers to the supervisors to the chief jailer, the 3% increase from each of those from the previous year to this year for the chief jailer and the supervisor, it's a 5% increase and a 6.7% increase because you're adding in that step in there.
Right.
So that's what kind of throws those top.
Throws the
top, but it's not the 10 and 11% difference from previous years as the 53 and the 50,000.
Right.
So it's a lot more of a compromise downward a little bit, but it's still more than the 3%. Still a little bit of an incentive to do that.
That's what when we
And
went
that's,
to
I think,
the,
what your
yes,
goal is, to
it is.
incentivize people to stay longer, to become those trainers and supervisors,
right.
instead of just stay a jail officer and then leave and go someplace else.
And when we did the deputies, we did 3%. That was a 3% increase for each position.
And that probably was about the same amount overall from the top one. Well,
Yeah.
I think it was about,
And depending on which spot.
What's
Some
five,
of them did go up,
well,
But
yeah,
obviously-
the bottom ones don't go up at all. They go up to 3%,
Right.
but the top ones go up only 6.7 at the most, and that's the supervisors.
But as long as we give raises in percentages, that's only gonna increase.
Right.
So I like that as far as, I mean, it's still like 3% next year again is, you know, it's gonna widen that gap because it's a bigger raise for the higher you get.
Yeah, the dollar amount's bigger.
Yeah. And then, okay, on the last sheet, and I know I kind of explained this a little bit, so the Southeast School Corporation, Morris Park, has put in a grant to add a second school resource officer in their school district. So the commissioners, I went there a couple of weeks ago. They wanted a little more information on how it would look. So I asked the commissioners for an approval for the position of school resource officer if the grant is approved. And they approved that portion of it. So we still have not heard whether it's been approved or not. Dr. Laura thinks it's gonna be in August sometime. So if it does, I'm asking for the council to help fund it. And I kind of broke it down here. So 52 weeks a year, for 37 weeks, they're in the school, and the school pays $70,000 to the county per year. So if we did 37 weeks, it actually comes up to 72,000 is what I guess we could charge the school, but they got a grant for $70,000. So I called that a wash unless somebody wants me to really go after the $2,000. Or we can drop it down to 36 weeks or whatever. But a school teacher is contracted for 180 days. Doug, you probably know this.
180.
I'm sorry.
It's 183.
183. The kids are in school 180 days.
Yeah.
So that's where I came up to 37 weeks, which I think is 185 days. So it would be essentially 15 weeks that the county is going to have to fund the position, and that comes up to $29,241.15. If you use the same formula that I did for salary, Social Security, insurance, pension, car, and equipment, then it would cost the county $29,241.15 for those 15 weeks for that officer to be a deputy when school's not in session.
So, can I ask a real quick question?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just gonna get approved on the fly, pretty quick here, like if they find out, if the commissioners approve it, if we fund it, if they get their grant, it's gonna have to be done pretty skippy, right?
We wouldn't do this until the beginning of the year.
Okay, beginning of
Yeah.
January.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I was like, oh my word.
Yeah.
Can't just grab one of your existing.
Well,
deputies.
and it will be an existing deputy because they have the knowledge to go forward, but we would have to replace them. And that's kind of why I went a little ahead of the game and asked the commissioners just for that. So if I get a phone call next week, 1st of August says, yes, we got the position, and at least we can start the process of hiring. Just to be a little ahead of the game instead of waiting. It's only gonna give us maybe 2 or 3 weeks ahead of the game, but at this point, it's a little bit tough. And I'm not asking for funding if the grant doesn't come through at this point.
This SRO classes then, where does that at?
Yeah, I don't even know, I haven't even looked at it yet, but that would allow us, throughout the fall to get whoever would apply for this position and get it, would go through getting to that school or whatever, which the school normally pays for that.
So the superintendent is Jamie Hood. And
Yes.
You had mentioned
Mhm.
Dr. Laura.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, Dr. Flint.
So I think the commissioners approved the position pending the grant approval.
Correct.
I think Sandy wants us to approve this, in our budget hearing, to approve this amount. And, then if it would be in the budget, so.
It is in the budget, we put it in
She
the
said we
budget.
can't wait.
Right.
We couldn't wait. Otherwise we get additional appropriations to this state wouldn't like it, I guess.
The budget will reflect just a regular full-time.
It will, yeah,
And then they'll just reimburse.
because the money, what the school pays goes straight to the general fund.
This is just for 1 year.
It's a yearly contract, for the grant. So they have to, I assume they apply every year. So it's one of those things where, yeah, the commissioner said it too, if they don't get the grant, it falls back on the county.
I would imagine there'll be more and more money appropriated for this, that more schools.
Everything that looks that I've received coming down from the federal government sure does point that way.
How many deputies will that take up to then?
23,
Does that include you?
Mhm.
That does include you?
it does.
23.
Anyone ask if that's enough? Or is it-
No, I already know the answer.
Not going to entertain that
Yes.
question at this time.
Yeah. Withdraw the question, please.
It was worth a shot.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is there any other questions or anything, that you have?
I think if you don't mind putting that together.
I will.
Getting that to us, and maybe we would have it for budget. Any other questions of the sheriff? I appreciate it.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night. I wrote on them.
What if it's only 2?
That's kind of.
I mean, the spread's gonna move.
I did too, but it just doesn't seem like enough to be like, oh yeah, I really want to go for that, you know?
But in 6 years, the spread is larger.
Yeah, but what about for next year? You know, to entice people to want to take the initiative to do the trainings, I mean, I see where he's coming from, you know? If it's not worth your time.
But if you know, and that, and I don't know what that lasts, and maybe those, if we would go 3% off the bottom, what's the jump? I mean, if we leave the top 2 alone, with their 3% raise, why can't that just be filled in? Why does it between that, I can't? And I haven't done it bad.
So are you asking like from the jail officer, the jail officer trainer, supervisor,
Those are
chief, if you do a 3% between each one of those?
Okay, and then the dip, then leave the top 2 alone. I mean, just with the regular raise.
Oh, the regular rates, okay.
You just have a 3% raise, you wouldn't have.
Well, I mean, the trainer isn't like an established position, it's like the extra duties, right? So it wasn't something from the previous budget, so we don't know.
And there was no other defined.
That's a 3% straight on its own from the jailer. Then the next one is 6.7%. And then if we change, that would be supervisors. And then if we change the jailers to that, bumping up the 3% scale, it was a 5% difference from last year, or 22 to 23. So it's 3% for the trainer, 6.7 and 5%.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, the supervisor, why can't that just be 3% above the trainers?
Because trainers weren't established over here. The trainers are the jail office back. You mean, that's what I'm saying. We're adding that step in there that wasn't there before.
And so if you take the 46,405 and add 3%, that's 47,800 for the trainers.
And how much is that, 47? That's 3% above 45,057?
46.
No.
408.
The 46,408.
It's 3%
We're going-
above that.
We're going off the new amount for the jail officers.
So that creates a whole new step in there.
Right.
So it's not like you can say, well, we're just gonna go with another 3%.
No.
3% from where?
3% above 46,409, which is the jail officer's new pay.
No.
Why isn't that? It's 45,057 now.
Yeah, so their new pay is gonna be 46,408. The majority of the
Okay,
staff.
that's what I got, 46,409.
Yeah.
408.
So that'll be the good
Okay, so
majority.
now you take the 46,408, take it times 1.03.
Yeah.
You get the 47,800.
47,800.
47,800.
47,800.
So that's the trainers.
Okay, and then you take another times.
3%.
Yeah.
That's 49,234. Their 3% would be 50,711.
But since you added that step in there, if you go back to their 22 budget, the 22 budget to that 49,234 and 50,711 isn't 3%. Because we added a step in there, which threw things off.
Right, it's just.
Now, it's not as big as what he proposed. His was 11.1% and 10.3% originally.
Now, I I would not like to leave just a regular 3% raise. I mean, if we're going to do this, if we're going to do any of this, I don't want to leave the top one, fine, you know, just the jail commander, 3%. The chief jailer, Falkenberg. If we leave that at 3% and we go ahead and adopt this, 3% jump, like spread up from the jail officer, that's only $500. You know, it's, I wouldn't want to take that job for an extra $500 a year. That's a lot of responsibility.
I get you, yeah, I see where you're coming from there. Yeah, you can't, you couldn't hold her pay because she wouldn't be enough difference there, you're saying.
It's just a lot.
I don't know, is this, is this fair to, every other, I guess, just say every other department, they come in and we make a new scale and they want 3% difference, that's the thing I don't know. See, I couldn't figure out where, I guess I couldn't figure out where, these numbers off the side here, on
This
that
was
sheet.
really confusing.
No,
All
these
these details on
numbers
this,
here,
I just couldn't figure
Marky
out.
told me these are what he wants.
Are you looking
This
at
is
the
what I got in the
packet?
packet.
Okay.
So, that's what threw me, and I thought, I don't follow this at all.
This is the new one. These are the numbers that you
He's
wrote.
asking.
Those are the numbers you wrote in on the side from what Monkey sent us. Is that true?
I don't know, it's.
The one on the side are the 23 budget that is now in the new thing we got.
Yeah, that's what he has here.
Yeah.
Because, right, what he sent us was not correct. I think he thought he changed it, he did.
And it's close to it, a couple of dollars off, yeah.
It's a decision we're gonna have to make, if we're gonna do that, or.
Will he be finished then? Because last year we did the deputies and we got the kitchen people. I'm like, you couldn't do it all.
Oh, he didn't even break up the kitchen people.
Right.
We got to ask him about that. See, they're over the max. The way I look at it, the cook is over the max in the range.
I mean, I think why he didn't do the deputies and the sheriffs, or the deputies and the jailers, everybody at once, because, it was a lot to get this and figure that out. Because, we met with them last year, too, a few hours just to go over those.
He's also doing the cooks, like the kitchen staff and maintenance
As a,
increase
That's
in
what
this
he's
budget.
requesting,
Mhm.
See, the cook, the kitchen manager, unless I'm wrong here, she's at LTC 3. And then he's asking for $18. And it's the max, the way I read it, is 1801 in that category.
He's asking for 18.
Yes, for the kitchen manager. So he's got her at technically about the top of the scale. And then the cook is, the way I look at it, is an LTC 2.
Right.
And he's asking for $16, and that's over.
That's outside the range.
That's
So we'll have
outside the range.
to meet that one.
So again, are we, at some point here, we're gonna have to decide if we're gonna go along with that. Then I think, with the research I did on the cook, and the kitchen manager, they seem like they're underpaid. And I think Marky says the same thing here.
Yeah.
So that's probably something, I'd have to go along with.
I don't know if they need like a certain percentage between each one, but maybe reevaluating the salary range.
No,
Something like that. Is that what you're saying?
No, I agree with what he's asking for. I think both of them would be satisfied with that. But it's just the one we'd have to lower by 30 cents or, what I'm saying, because it's over the amount.
Oh, it's out of the range.
It's just out of the range.
He's asking 16 and the top is 1577. So, but then again, we have to decide on this maintenance gentleman. You know, he's asking, it's so far out of range that it's not gonna be possible.
Does he not look at the ranges then? That's what I was wondering. I'm like,
I don't know.
he's not
But, you know,
using that as the guide then to.
I think I looked up his pay, I should have wrote it down, but he's asking for 24, and I think the top of the range would be 2138. And he would still get a substantial raise.
I got so many papers over there.
Let's see, he's making 1924 now. And 1924 times 1.03 is. Somewhat of a raise.
1982.
24 times 1.03. He would be making 1981. And I mean, he technically could push him up to 2138 at the top of the range. This is when I read it.
That's what we're gonna have to do.
Because you know, he'd have to move up 2 classifications in order to get that kind of pay.
I mean, that's the tricky thing. It's like, you know, you hire somebody that doesn't have much experience and all of a sudden this guy comes in that's just over the top skills.
See if you could reclassify him, and you know, that's what I should have talked to Tom about it. You know, if he's got more skill level, then when you look up LTC 5 or 6, you know, there's people that, you know, if he's got that skill level, like a mechanic or, you know, highway garage, I think is a good example of mechanic.
It sounds to me like his job description has expanded significantly based on his skills.
Right.
Well, it seems like everything that, I guess he feels like he saved us, we're gonna give him back in pay in some way.
But that's,
I mean-
Tom's argument is something that is not in apples to apples. I mean, this is the wage rate, not that.
You know, this thing is, this whole pay scale is, I feel like maybe we need to implement it differently in some way. So actually, I called Marky today, and just doing hypotheticals. I said, what if we establish a rule, instead of the department head deciding what the pay is for the department, that HR, maybe along with county council, establishes the pay. Because that's the only way we're gonna get everything to fall into place. Otherwise, I think everybody who hires new people and takes them straight up to the top, and there's nowhere to go. And I think some of the frustration that I guess I've seen is an employee who's been here for 30 years and then leaves, and then we bring a new person in with obviously no experience or no experience, comes in at the same pay rate that the person left with the 30 years. And I just don't know how we stop that, other than having someone with the knowledge and say, this is what the job is, and this is what the pay is. Now, after 90 days or something, or some, and I'm not saying that's what it is, some sort of time frame to do a review, and we'll see where you're at then. Because I just think the department heads are gonna take it to the top.
It does all the time.
Absolutely.
But it's
Yeah.
happening less.
Yeah, and that's
isn't
why
it?
we,
I mean,
I
it
thought
seems
that's
like
why we had
there's.
like the requirements
So-
and responsibilities and.
I would say it
Time
happens
use
more
and-
often than not.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so I guess I'm thinking that would be a great starting point. I guess it takes a little bit off of the department head. But instead of the department head choosing what the pay is, we get HR and the council that what we're trying to establish. Otherwise, we're always gonna be out of range. And we're always gonna be cockeyed and somebody's gonna be higher. So maybe this here allows it to
There's
be more uniform.
more consistency between all of the departments as far as
Just
how
a-
the process is done, yeah.
Just a thought, I'm not saying.
I mean, there are departments that hire new people and they start them lower.
There are.
Oh, absolutely.
Sandy would be an example of that.
I mean, Jackie does it, Amy does too, doesn't she?
the
Yeah,
ones
so those would be the few
Yeah,
that I
those- yeah,
could
those
think
are
off
the
of the
ones
top of
that-
my head.
Like
Yeah.
Steve starts them lower too, doesn't he?
Yeah,
also
because
has an
he
evaluation
recently
process.
did the, yeah.
He has an evaluation process,
Right, right.
which that's what I thought would be a great
Yeah,
way
that
to
is
implement across.
But that your
and have
people,
it
your
all
departments that have the higher rate of turnover, they, except for the sheriff, I mean, of course, they have to follow their classes. But there's other departments that have very high turnover and they start those people out at the highest biweekly pay there is for that position. It's not very often that it's lower. I mean, there's probably just a handful that do it. I mean, and maybe there is more and more, but what I've seen, it's been mostly the top.
It seems like that discussion would be, it seems like it'd be tough to get the council involved in that.
Correct.
Procedure. Because, you know, we don't know, if you're not in the interview process, if you're not, you know, it would be tough to me. It seems like it would be marking the department head, say, you know, this person, you know, have him be in charge of it more. Because, you know, that'd be my opinion. Well, I don't know if as a council, we want to get involved in that deep, do we?
Right.
And all that we can do really is encourage them to do that, because the elected official can just say, here's, I'm doing whatever I want, you know? if it's
Do they
whatever-
have that power? Do the elected official have the power to?
Oh, as long as it's budgeted, they can do whatever they want.
I would think so. Your department heads now,
Yeah.
the ones that are appointed, not an elected official, maybe not, but
But you know, it's only realistic what you're saying, you know, when you start somebody at the top, there's no place to go, you know?
Right.
So you're always gonna wait and see what the next raise is gonna be. It's not like you can move up and learn more. We all know that, but you know, it's
Well, it just continually encourages that pushing above the cap or to change the ranges. Well, if we keep changing the ranges, but they're just gonna keep putting it at the top, and then we're gonna just keep changing it again, and it's gonna get out of control. That's why we set them to begin with. And that's why I thought an evaluation process, 6 months, a year, or whatever, was a good matrix to use. But, you know, putting those department heads in there, I don't think you're gonna change the mentality of it. If they've already said, you know, are doing that top of the pay scale, they're gonna push for top of the pay scale, whether Marky's there or not.
So as an elected official, they can decide what the pay is gonna be for the people below them, even though we're.
As long as
it's
it's,
in the range.
and as long as it's been budgeted.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be like every time there was turnover, then they'd have to come to the council.
Right.
We'd have to.
But I guess I'm looking at it,
Cut it
that
off.
it's, when a new employee is being hired, that Markey says, this is what we're gonna pay. Now, if somebody comes, hey, they worked at a different county, so they got experience, well, you know what? Well, maybe your pay is gonna be a little higher because of your experience. I don't know.
So this maintenance worker at the jail has 40 years of experience and he accepted the job at that pay. We had somebody left one office, went to another, knew exactly what it paid, but now all of a sudden, a few months later, we gotta put them out of that class, and I'm like, you know, some of that stuff's kinda, they don't take the job. This is what it takes.
This, I've said that, which I understand we still have to respect their opportunity, but I just don't know that we, how do we, I guess, have we not done a good enough job of working and make sure everybody's classified correctly? I feel like we've been at this for a time that, man, I think we've done a good job. I feel like Megan's letter or her communication to us made us all look bad. made it, I mean, all the work and time I put into it was, and I'm sure she didn't intend to slap us in the face with it, but that's what it was.
Well, that's exactly what I said.
Mhm.
You know,
But
whether you
it's
feel
just
it or
like-
not, it's like,
Mhm.
you know, we put hours upon the last years going into this, and it's like,
Yeah, I feel
it's never satisfactory for
Yeah.
her.
Just like with all the work we've done, and then she, I guess her comment is that it's still not correct. It's like, well, it could be correct. Maybe it is correct. It's just not that, it's not where you want it to be.
I think I'm reflecting on that department in particular, and part of me was wondering if, you know, if the wages possibly weren't allowed to grow at all because of the project income crisis they had several years ago. You know, that they had to keep their wages where they were. I don't know, it just crossed my mind.
Sure.
They started low, that's for sure.
I'm sure that weighed on them because, you know, they were always forced to be self-sufficient, more or less.
But we had groups come in, evaluated, we've given chances to appeal it, to, you know, 3 years worth of them coming in to request more for us to evaluate it more and more, and it just seems like year after year, even when we say no back-to-back years, it still comes back-to-back years that correct requests are this difference of $20,000. She still
What-
brings that up.
But we have to be ready then for mass exit. We just have to be, that's gonna be one of those departments that just is constantly. It takes greater and greater skills. Some of those are, you look at the health department, the need for nurses. We can't pay a traveling nurse wage. But if the hospital is down 200 nurses, it's gonna trickle on down to us too, because we can't do it. And I don't know what the answer is. I would think of the 200 nurses that left, that somebody would like a 35-hour-a-week job. You know,
No weekends, no holidays,
some of that has to pay off somewhere, I'm like, but it don't, you know, it sounds like it doesn't matter anymore. That's why I wonder on some of these going, well, maybe we could if we raised the number of hours a week.
Make it a 40-hour week.
What are we getting? Or we're getting less and less all the time, you know? And you have some departments, they never say a word, they're just happy with their 3% raise, or they're grumbling that we don't hear about it, but I'm like, somehow this is just still not fair.
Well, I was shocked with the coroner, you know, I mean, obviously, I was speaking up first. I mean, some of this narrative is her job description, which you pointed out earlier. You know, she's on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's the job description right there.
But that to me is extreme.
Right.
I just think we have gotten a lot from them for
Yeah.
cheap for a long time.
Right, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, a lot of it is the job description, but I'm like, I don't think I want that responsibility for
Right.
$15,000 a year. I mean, that's a.
So I guess what, she elected to run and she got elected and
Yeah.
now it's, I thought we fixed it last year. And now we didn't, so I'm like, what? I was shocked, so.
Part of my thought though is, you know, we did the same thing and after it turned out to be a lot more in some cases than what we thought it might be.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting though, that she picked the sheriff's salary.
Well, I think the point wasn't his salary. I think the point is her whole entire budget could fit inside his salary.
Yeah.
But I think when we when we give them again, and we have others who didn't ask, it makes us look back at that. I mean, how do we say no to some of these? These are gonna be tough to say no to. And it seems like, in my eyes, since we said yes to this, it seems like it's gonna be tougher to say no to that, in my view.
Then if that's the case, we can figure out how many on-call hours they have and divide it by the 7,700, dollars they make in a year and see what that comes up to hourly. I mean, like not even $5 an hour, I wouldn't think. As far as on-call hours, that they're required to be on call.
Plus the driving of their own vehicle.
I mean, I don't think any of these people take insurance.
They're not eligible for it except the elected official.
Right. I mean, I don't know, like, okay, so even like the surveyor, I mean, he probably does do more actual man hours than the coroner, if it's all added up, but the surveyor, maybe, I don't know. I mean, his salary is $10,000 more than what she's making right now.
When you look at the book there, I thought she was underpaid for the improvement. I mean, I didn't know if we should go with the deputies all up, but we did, so that's the main thing. But she put on a pretty good thing with the commissioners last year. I remember I sat in on it. It's pretty, they don't make much. I'm not just saying that they're on call, they end up, they can't leave, if they're on call, they can't leave town,
Right.
So it is something that's worth something. But that decision's made, we got bigger ones to make,
I mean, I get what you're saying, Craig, that, like we approved that 2 years in a row. But I mean, if you actually look at the salary, it's like, that's a lot of responsibility for that small salary.
The other one, just,
Can't argue with
with the maintenance person there, I guess I'll talk to the sheriff about that. I mean, he can only get 21.38 an hour. Things, I'm gonna call him and tell him that. If he comes back with his other thing,
Look at cook too.
yeah,
I love cook too.
God bless.
so. So we still feel, looking at the packet, we feel we can get this all done, on the 8th. I guess I don't know how much of a lead time we'd have to make a public notice if we have another meeting, but does everyone feel like we can cover this?
And we kind of already got a couple of them taken care of, right?
Yeah.
We can handle this.
We can do it.
What do you think, Brooke? We can handle it, right? It's gonna be a little long day.
I'm bringing socks, I know that.
I know.
We got a 4-week old at home, so.
I am
We got a
really,
4-week old at home, so. let's
she
try
is
to go
ready
as
to bring
quickly
a
as
roll.
possible, so.
Well, I mean, last year was about 8-something, 8:30 or something.
Yeah, it was a 12-hour day,
So
12 and a half, 15-hour day.
I guess the only thing I can say is we better try to study them and try to get a feel on what we want to do.
Well, we already got the veteran service officer figured out, right, Mike?
Pardon me?
We already got the veteran service officer figured out.
Right.
And highway department,
We didn't
moving the TLC too.
Are we gonna, well, we have to
And then
decide.
the corner.
Never doing well, that wasn't finalized.
We can talk
That's-
about even the direction we're going. You want me to talk about the deal?
Yes, sir.
No, the later,
Highway department.
county or out. We have to either move them, we have to move them up, TLC two instead of part-time.
I can't do it. Is that what you want?
Well, either way, I can do them all, or
Yeah, we'll just do that. That's fine.
we talked to Marky about a TLC two,
Oh, yeah.
so we can decide if we're probably going to do that.
Okay.
Otherwise, do we?
We have additionals yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working.
We got our budget.
I can't leave without these additionals signed.
No.
So put you on
So
probation.
we
I'll be cut.
gotta So we had the copier, is that the one where it's cute
Mhm.
copier?
Mhm.
So you-
Jenny brought that to you guys and you had a consensus last meeting to advertise and approved it.
So I'll accept the motion to approve that expenditure.
Make that motion.
Craig made a motion, to have a second. Alex seconded, so all in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, the building insurance liability, that went over budget, I think is what I,
Yes, and that was because of all of the new vehicles and their insurance. And that was for $15,500.
okay, I'll make a motion that we accept that 15,500. I made a motion and Charmaine seconded, so all in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, and the last one is the second last one is the jail, the CR, lit CR tax, jail construction. We checked it out last Friday, it's just paying Sharman and the construction. And then that CR, as far as the CR money, it's flat then at this point. So,
Yeah, currently we're paying out of the bonds. Before we did not appropriate everything into the fund. Now we are going to appropriate the rest into that fund to make it whole. And we are continuing to get the monthly lit deposit.
So I see that they're kind of pushed back a couple weeks, is that it? Or is that because of the?
you know, we had a meeting this morning about them moving, Megan had her staff and, you know, Charlotte was there. We just wanted to walk through it. It looks like October 1st is the move date. So the jail would have to be completed, inspected, you know, and turned over to the, technically turned over to the contractors. And then they can move it. And that's October. It's not far off from what they had projected. It might be a week off or two. So. It seems like it's, any other questions on that? I'm gonna make a motion here to approve that additional appropriation 564,806. So it's seconded by, I made a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's okay.
keep missing it.
So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
And the last one is pretrial diversion victim advocate. They are on a 2-year grant cycle from 20 to 22. The appropriation this appropriation will get us through the end of the year. The new grant is from October 1st of 22 to 9/30 of 24. The victim grant for 20 to 22 raise was in the grant and should have been in the pretrial fund and has been corrected for the upcoming years.
I know everybody understands that, so I'll accept the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Doug made a motion, have a second.
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 Alex seconded. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Did you get that, Brooke? I think Doug made the motion. Thank you. So, Brooke, is that all you had, or
Yes, that is all I had.
any other discussions? Hearing no, nothing.
Do we want to look over any of these other ones that just
Paper
like,
clips or anything?
No problem.
just to get our minds around what about any of them? I don't know.
It's fine with me.
I mean, it would save us a little time.
It'd be great for me.
What's that?
If we want to look over, you know, just talk about some of these. Sure.
If we want to do that, do you want to start it?
The top of my pile is soil and water conservation district, that's the one here.
two of them.
Yeah, Justin Berry is the one that I got.
Yeah, go ahead and start the discussion.
Okay, so Justin Berry, Judy is requesting is 3% over the regular rates. She did ask last year. And then she's asking for another 2% for Jessica Contra. Anybody have any thoughts?
I still feel, again, that, you know, like that, Justin Berry, you know, he's learned a lot more in the field, you know. I just think, how do you reward him for moving up? I mean, I just think if he's in the wage range, I think we ought to allow the, you know, department head or the director to raise him. I mean, that's my opinion. In the same way with the, you know, the secretary. I feel the same way.
So I don't go to every one of their meetings anymore. My schedule won't allow for it. But she does a lot. I mean, she has really taken several of the things that they do to the next level. So, yeah. She really does a good job.
And so do they fit? I did not check to see if they fit in their ranges.
Yeah,
There's still room for
yeah, there's
to
still.
grow.
So,
Justin, he got 4% last year.
I thought we refused that.
He got 3% plus an additional 1%. So is this one of those that don't want to cut back?
Yeah, last
Are
page.
they gonna come back next year too?
No, the last page, you requested 9%, but we gave him a 1% additional.
I didn't ask.
But what's the deal?
I know. But I prefaced it by saying it wasn't really nice. I don't-
It's not my problem.
Sometimes it just.
See, and Marky even puts notes in there, I think these are Marky's notes, right?
Yeah,
That Judy's doing regular performance reviews.
she has.
And that's kind of the, I mean, that's what we thought was our end goal, was to do evaluations periodically and determine if they should move from the bottom part of the scale to the middle or the top, or something like that.
So both of them
So I don't-
fall within the range is what we're.
And she even has the
Yeah.
ranges listed there, that's what the proposed is.
Which is fairly a lot.
That position is just made full-time. 18 months ago or something. 2 years ago already, probably not.
So,
You know, like,
or Chuck and Jessica. So Patty.
what do you, does anybody have, what's that Justin making now?
Right now, 22.15.
So you did get a 1% extra.
Now, that's what do you think? I mean, you're on the board out there.
Yeah, I mean, I work with him on my farm. He's responsive, he does his job. He drives from Corden, that's his choice. He's in the range and not even the very top, so. You know, Mark came in and talks about climate change and all this stuff we can do. Well, that department out there does a lot of soil loss and water quality, so we're kind of doing what he's wanting us to go learn about. Justin's a good kid. He works hard and he's not a complainer that I know of. The only thing I was a little disappointed in it, when I was in the Soil and Water Board, he got tar on a vehicle, and they just acted like he couldn't clean the tar off the vehicle. They wanted to professionally hire someone to do it. And I thought, I mean, you can step in and do that for an hour. Do we have to spend $300 for a detailing service? So that was a little bit of a setback for me. But as far as coming out to the farms, he's on top of it. So. Is that legitimate? I didn't see why he couldn't do that.
Especially when it's fresh, comes out pretty.
They said I wasn't part of the job. I said, oh, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not.
Thanks for sharing that.
You still kidding about it?
No, but they remember that. I don't think that's beneath anyone. And I think everyone's replaceable. I'm not talking about Justin, but these people that come in here with these attitudes on irreplaceable, and they kind of almost have a narcissistic approach to these raises and stuff. I do not go for that. That's something I will say.
Now, there's were a few of these that sort of turned me off the first couple of lines I read. Oh my gosh.
So,
But, I mean, like, kind of going back, what I do like, the very first thing that they said is performance reviews. So they're doing that and reevaluating and showing, okay, well, maybe they started out at the bottom because they didn't know anything, but now they're learning more and doing more, and the performance shows that it's above average, or, you know. In my
And maybe
mind,
we
if
need
you're
to
doing
ask
that-
each department head, each one, are you doing performance review?
Well, that's what I thought we were
Just-
eventually getting to.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that's what we
Yeah.
were gonna be at by now, but maybe I misunderstood.
I
don't think I
you
did though, but I
No.
think
We
that's
thought-
what our end goal was, to set these, have that expectation of, that's why we have the job responsibilities and duties and responsibilities that need to be made up, so that we had a starting point. But that's my 2 cents on these two.
What's next?
Prosecutor? 40, health work. Okay, so another thing that's changed over time, and I'm glad you brought this up, Becky, was the fact that he had his other business. And so some of those wages were kept at that level because of his,
That's what he was paying on his side.
yeah, he was paying his other employees, that his other business, so that's what he paid.
So a private business pay scale compared to a non-private pay
Before he
scale.
retired, so we have to look at that once in a while, and it's, okay, but which your side paying? You know, if these are splitting duties or whatever. It was kind of confusing, but
I do remember, it's back in the back corners of my brain somewhere, that when we met and talked about what we should bring them to, that it was written that, okay, yeah, that's a really good wage, you know, he would be satisfied, he felt like that was really good. And so every year it seems like it's not, and I think part of it is now that he doesn't have this other, you know, those employees aren't working for his other business. So now it's fine because we can take him up to wherever. Yeah, we can go to the town.
So he came in last year, was it the exact same positions that he's doing the same this year as well? These caseworker and everything?
I think so.
Whatever happened to not continually coming in every single year?
you get new employees. Plus, it's always interesting to see what he's gonna do on rent. I think the trash stickers went up the price too, so. Yeah,
Let's see.
So, Brooke, are all of his employees full-time employees?
Yes,
That was not the case in the past, is that correct?
correct.
Two, I think two were and one was part-time.
Yeah.
Or was there
We
one,
made it.
I think there was one full-time and two part-time,
At that's been many years ago. I can't remember how long.
and then it went from two
I think.
full-time to one part-time, and now all three are full-time. The case has gone up that much?
so we never get to see stuff like that.
So it's a 12% raise, is that what?
19% raise. So I'm looking for Betty and Lincoln, or Betty
So confused. Didn't we do, what did we do last year? Didn't we last year? Even.
See, Larry wasn't there, but I know we did some of them, didn't we?
So top two that are at 17.49, that's gonna be a 19.2% raise. And then the one that's currently at 22.74 is gonna be an 8.9% raise, what he's proposing requesting.
I think we gave Rally a 2% merit pay last year, when I got here.
So 3% and then 2% on top.
Yep, 3 plus 2.
Mhm.
Who's,
Wow.
Barry wasn't there, so Bete. Let's see here. Why did she need that?
I mean, that's what I'm saying, I mean, new people aren't coming in. But we already did that for
I just don't
Raleigh
see
for,
this.
you know,
Say it again.
I said, I don't see raising these, especially jumping classifications.
Well, and again, I think some of that was when it, all that was set when those two employees were working some of the time for his other business. So their job duties weren't, I mean, I'm not saying that it's justified to move, but that's why they ended up in the coma too. Is because they were not
doing that for the county.
doing as much for the county as they're doing now.
We were doing more of that first person for the other business.
I think. We can't raise their salaries more because when they're doing work for my side, then that's just too much. It's too complicated to track the hours and pay them different rates.
So it says here, on the 2368, he's taken it to the highest Coma 3 salary possible.
Yes.
So that's the reason why we're in that same situation. We're at the highest it can be, so now we have to choose classifications. Is that right? Is that how I'm interpreting this?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, that's what we would like to see happen.
Okay.
He's not even raising to a coma.
Yeah. The secretary. The secretary and the caseworker are both in coma too, right now.
So I had looked at one time like case managers for CASA or case managers with community corrections. I didn't think so. And so I was like, is that what we ordered to them? That other case managers were getting paid? Isn't one, like conflict, she's the first deputy too. So. Is there training to be a caseworker? Do you actually go somewhere and learn how to do this? Or like,
so he's
is Bramlett doing case management work?
So he's basing his need to change COMAT 2 to COMAT 3 by saying that because there's no other COMAT 2s in the county, it's hard to imagine his is, but he's not comparing it to what the duties, responsibilities are in that COMAT 2. If that's what they're doing, then that's what they're doing.
Most of them are.
I mean,
I think that's I don't think that's a good matrix to go by if you're saying, well, just because someone else isn't doing that, well, they're not doing the same job. You go by what you're doing for jobs, with the classifications.
And again, like the job descriptions may have changed. You know, like I think the one labeled secretary here, she was probably the main secretary for his other business, and she sometimes did some case, you know, some child support work.
The part-timer?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then now she's full-time.
So should there be changes in their file that Marky keeps with their duty and job description went from secretary to case manager now?
Are they a case manager or case worker?
Case worker.
So I mean, if the pay is the same there, isn't it? I mean, it says the pay is the same. COMAT, a case worker is a COMAT 2 with the 1238, 1801. So I mean, why do we have to do anything?
In his case is that there's not hardly any other full-time people who work in an office that aren't COMAT 3. Isn't that how you guys interpreted that? Yes.
There's no justified reason for that.
So we'll just have to ask him more questions when he comes in.
Well, yeah.
Thank you for that.
911? There's just a lot to read there. I can't read, but. All the moving parts.
Marky said it's a solid middle of the road.
Yes.
So, okay, so I mean, part of it is they're not really getting a raise, they're just working more hours and they're requesting an equivalent amount of increase in pay with the number of hours worked. Is that how you, the second part of the shift supervisor, but
Yeah.
the other
Let's
part.
let him explain that to the commissioners. I think, Mike, you were there too.
I mean, that's accurate. And then the only other one is the shift supervisor, moving on up.
But she had talked to her, at one time about that,
Yeah, you know,
making the differential.
and if we're doing the 3%, step between deputies and jailers. I don't think that's unreasonable. Any other thoughts?
I think this is good for the department. Helps establish kind of a third person that helps with the succession planning. So. I don't think it's unreasonable. Anyway.
Okay. Probation. And the only thing that she's asking for there is that she started at 1.5 instead of moving her to 2. It would move it to 1.5 to split the difference between 2 and 3 and do 2.5.
So it's gonna be every year.
Yeah, it's every.
Yeah, for that particular person, that would probably be the case. That would probably be how they would handle that every year is based on the number of years of experience. So I guess the lesson here is don't bring them in at a half.
Well,
Well,
and
is
I think
that-
there's others that have half years too.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think there might be somebody else that has a half year.
Are they paid at half in between also?
I think so, but I would need that probation chart. Like the probation chart that we fill out for our current employees. That shows their years of service and that stuff.
And their years of service that's what they base their pay and all that stuff on anyway.
And that's by statute.
In the statute, so
Okay, so
it
here,
seems pretty straightforward though.
so I don't remember what the gentleman's name is who started at 2 years. No. he
Peyton
started with 3.
Thompson.
Yes, he started with 3 years experience, so that was not a half year then.
Plus the experience, if she came with a year and a half, does that carry over from some other department or how does
She was hired in it from a different place. She came from
doing the same job?
She was an intern for us.
So she now has a master's degree in good work ethic.
I mean, personally, I don't find that unreasonable. Anybody else have thoughts on it?
I think it makes sense. If that's the years of experience and everything she has, and that's what they go by.
Just as long as you're consistent with, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky thing. We approved to bring her in at 1.5 years experience. So kind of beef about it, I feel like that's on us.
So it's, we don't get any state money for this position, do we? That's all just comes out of the,
No,
the wage is mandated by the state.
this is what I call an unfunded mandate.
That's kind of what I was thinking too, so. Okay.
Getting more of those. Remember the weights and measures? Yeah, analyzing the fuel. I'm like, why won't they pay for the equipment if they're gonna make us do it?
Well, I don't think he's gonna come back next year. It's years of, it's between 4 and 9 years of experience. It's gotta be at least 52 to 62. probation officer base salary.
Oh, yeah.
So I took a shot back after.
Who's that? Emily?
Or no,
Yeah.
yeah. Is that who we're talking about here?
Yeah.
But he started with the Du Bois.
Well, yeah, that was
There's
Ignore that.
the part that.
Okay, we're
talked
looking
about
at
is
him,
only
okay, yeah. Oh, no, it's not true, that should come back.
Should come back to that.
Should come back here, yeah.
I mean, we have several probation officers that have 24, 9 years experience, so I'm pretty sure.
Mhm. It's all in that chart.
Yeah.
I wish I would have
We
had
just don't
that.
have that yet, so.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Okay.
Anybody else think that's, does anyone think that's unreasonable?
No.
This was
I don't know if they want it, it's just how they think, you know.
That's good. Good.
assessment. We want to allow an additional $1,500 for a level 3 certification for the assessors. Level 3. That was, that's only for the assessor, right?
Mhm.
The justification from what I understood was we approved $1,000 for level 3, was it for deputy assessors? So she feels that we need to double the amount for the level 3 assessor, so that it matches what we did and is consistent. That's how you, is that how you heard that? I mean, if she didn't have a level 3, it would cost us a whole lot more than $1,500 in order to get somebody that's not. I mean, it's been $1,500. Are there other, level 3s? There aren't on there, she's the only level 3.
Mhm. I think that's required by statute for the assessor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
An individual that
Was-
office has to have.
Was there one gentleman though? I think there's people with level 2, aren't there?
Are you talking about Peta Boa or are you talking about her deputies? Her-
Was that talking about, I didn't think her deputies had 3 shifts.
Mm-mm. No,
But I was thinking there was another people. Yeah, Rachel, maybe, somebody that I think was Peterborough that had a level 3.
could be. Yeah, I'm not for sure.
Okay, 'cause yeah, she's got 2,500 in the budget for level 2 and 1,500 for level 3. So, increase the other group is another 1,500. They find that to be unreasonable. Okay.
So is there any other certifications that other department heads have to, referring to auditors or, treasurers, recorders?
I mean, there's those
Clerks.
continuous like education hours that I think they have to get
He is
through
Yeah.
AIC.
with money back and all that stuff, pay it down.
But I don't think it's anything quite as like intense as a level 3 assistant appraiser. I mean, you would know more about that, Sonia, than what I would probably.
As far as, I think it's a requirement, isn't it, for her?
It is
For the assessor, but not for the other one.
No, I don't think for the other ones, I think it's just continuing education, but I don't know that it's, or do they have, I don't know if they have to do so many hours per year.
I know they have to do, I think elected officials have to do continuing education, right?
But I mean, is there a minimum amount per year they have to do?
I don't know. I would think so, but,
Yeah.
or maybe it's over the 4-year term. I'm not for sure.
She had the turnover, she had. She told me after budget last year. $14.
then.
So that person would be.
All right, moving on.
That's
What's
not
next?
the same thing.
Is that a,
No, that's just.
so she's getting $3,000, right?
Okay, was that,
She's requesting $3,000.
Well, she's getting about 1,500 for her 3%, and then
Okay.
she's asking for 1,500.
On top of that.
Yeah.
okay, so was that okay, reasonable or not?
I don't see any other alternative here, again.
We can leave it 1,500 or anything between 1,500 and 3,000. It's just her rationale is that, I guess was it level twos were getting paid 500? And at some point, whoever on council decided that they were gonna do 1,000. As a deputy assessor, I was paid 1,000 for my level 3 certification, which is double the statutory minimum of 500. So,
I think her deputies only get paid 500 a year annually for her level, their level 2.
for level 2, but she said for her level 3, she got paid 1,000, which was 500.
As the assessor.
No, she said as a deputy assessor.
I thought the assessor was the only one that got paid. I would have to go back to double check that.
No, I think anybody that's got a level 2 or 3 gets paid.
I think they do too.
I think she
And
had
she
a
shows
level
all
3.
the counties in there and what they pay.
Yeah, I think she had her level 3 as a deputy.
I'm not for
Yeah,
sure on that.
As a deputy assessor, I was paid $1,000 for my level 3 certification, which was double the statutory minimum of 500. CD attached.
Every
So
county is
the
different.
county assessor level 3 should be doubled to be equitable with what was approved for a deputy assessor. That sentence right there is the rationale for doubling.
But the minimum is we only have to do 500
For a deputy.
for a deputy.
Because I think if you go in farther on page 2, it's page 2 of 4. Requires the county fiscal body, it's highlighted, to establish a salary schedule in which the salary of a county or township assessor with a level 3 certification is at least $1,500 more than the salary of a county or township assessor with a level 2.
But we don't have an assessor with a level 2.
Now, we might have some deputies with level 2.
But that doesn't say a deputy. That says a county or township assessor.
Yeah, the actual assessor, Angie, would have to get paid at least $1,500 more than someone who gets paid a level 2 certification. So if level 2 is 500, she would have to be paid 2,000,
If we had an assessor that was a level 2,
a deputy,
it doesn't say that.
okay,
It just says a county township assessor with a level 2. We don't have one of those.
okay.
We have a
Because the
township.
state does, not that much of a disparity between the two. Shows the 2s and 3s in there.
So she has to get at least 1,500.
Yeah.
Well, that goes back to looking at all the jailers and everything and all the distinctions that we need to make. You gotta be consistent.
If you look at the other counties, you can clearly see it. Shows every county, there's not that much difference between some get 2,500.
Okay, here. So like the bottom and sum is theoretically possible for a county or township assessor to experience a total salary increase due to receipt of certifications of at least 2,500 after taking office, or for a deputy assessor to experience a total salary increase due to receipts of certifications of at least 1,000 after being hired.
Is everybody that's trying to get their level 2 or level 3?
I think I talked to her one time years ago, and I think I don't think so. So somebody has to have a level 3.
Yes. This is one of those, you can't just run the, hey, it's open position, I'll run it. You gotta have some qualifications for this. That's what I think is amazing, how they don't term this. They term a coroner And that's the same thing, if you have certification, you got it.
Okay, so no other counties though on this list pay more than 2,500. Did you guys notice that?
Or the 5,000.
Was it 5,000?
Yeah.
Where?
Let's see this way.
Oh, there it is.
Monroe County, I believe, and then Hamilton County only does 500, but look at the salary.
Yeah.
There's a lot of value up there. I think it's reasonable with the county. She doesn't have to have it technically for everything.
So reasonable. Health department. See what the nurses are probably going to change.
Again, when you look at that book, it seems like we've got our nurses on the code when you compare it to other counties outside. And that's the problem.
And then we've got all this stuff that has, just, she's in competition, they're gonna get those nurses, just like we. It's amazing to me, this is another department, they got so many different funds.
What department?
This is health department. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just. Is Sue retiring this year? Sue?
I'm not for sure. I think the grant ends for that position, but I'm not for sure.
This year.
I don't know.
Didn't we move the administrative staff up to the?
So I mean, technically here, he's only, he asked to raise the nurses 8% and his pay 5%, right? Secretary, none of them.
Oh, okay, so like,
Is that worded funny there though? Is that worded funny?
yeah, he's asking.
8% raise for the nursing staff and the administrative director, and a 5% raise for all additional.
Oh, he's read that. So why,
So,
nurses,
well,
go ahead.
wasn't it last year that we brought the immunization clerk and the clerk registrar up to the same level as like the third deputy? I'm pretty sure that was last year.
What's their names?
Lisa and Mary Sue.
Isn't the health department mostly funded by state grants and there's not much comes out of
Part of their budget is split from property tax. So
Got that.
the auditor's office always kind of fluctuates, like
So
how
it's-
much should let's put there, keep them solvent.
So they don't come from the general fund.
No, not from the general fund, but the revenue does get split.
Right. I think this is one of those where, you know, we recognize that there's low, but I think if we do the health department, we have to do the community corrections. I mean, I think it's a hand in hand. I'm not saying we shouldn't, I'm not saying we should, I'm just saying I think they go hand in hand. So far we haven't said that many, but
We're so easy.
that's what we want to do.
That's what's,
Yeah.
it's easy to say yes.
It is.
It's easy to say yes. Yeah, the only one is county auditor. It's the only one that shows a increase here.
Okay,
The way I see it, we approved 5% for last year instead of 3%.
it may have been the year before that we did the other two.
She's a financial clerk, I think.
Yeah, because she really took on a lot of extra with COVID.
Do we want to wait on these two and just see how that meeting goes with, so a couple of you are gonna go to that meeting with Megan? We can let this go too. I'd like to study this a little more too.
Did you set up a meeting with them?
She didn't give me time, I came back and said I could do it tomorrow, and I never really did that. I might text her. No, she had her cell phone number in that email and everything.
I don't have time this week, I got other commitments.
Okay, clerk, there's only two more outside of community corrections. I don't think it was a ton. The only thing that looked like an increase was $1,000 to the salary for the clerk as the voter registration official.
I think it's funny, so I think the last year, we approved for Sandy to receive more money. So she was being paid more on the department heads in there. So now, the assessor has jumped in, the clerk was jumping in. Like, granted, they deserve that, obviously, but, you know what I'm saying, it's,
Is this a new statute that was passed this year, it's got 22 in it?
I don't think so.
She did have that folder center
It was almost
working
getting
on the,
quarters.
working with the town boards and everything.
no, not yet.
I mean, she's asking for a full time.
Yeah, she's not asking for it, for herself.
Well, I mean, we don't have an actual voter registration staff. Some counties have that.
So what does that mean? Can she elaborate more on what this new job does, or just, I guess I'm just trying to justify the 1,000, what that mean?
I think she's been doing this.
We'll ask her when she comes in.
You know,
And I think it's good that we're talking about it a little now so that we're not like asking these same questions after everyone's going. And then we're like, oh, what? Everyone's gone already. Okay, record. She's just asking for one more so she can get her people on.
Find the quarters perpetuation.
I think it was, I was telling Becky just a little bit ago, I think it was right after budget time, there were, Rick, you might remember, She hired, it was a gentleman that,
He's still there.
he's still there, okay.
Steve Caps or Caps?
She was, I think she was really hoping that she could pay him more, but, I'm like, well, it's 14. That's it.
What's his classification?
It's a commodity.
In the range?
This year it's 1202 to 1749, so it's well within the range. Even given the increase. Because 1801 is the top, this coming year for 23.
So again, why would we not let her do that? I
It's a
don't
good
guess,
question, I think it's,
because I mean, if as long as it's in that range, it should. I like the statement, I guess more people that she starts a lower salary, and performance reviews. I think if a person is worth that, I mean, you can't find people.
Well, I mean-
$60 to get that.
right, I mean, if you're doing, for a part-time person, that's, it seems like a reasonable wage.
It's fine with me.
I'm ready to get mine.
It was actually before budget day, because I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
these
she-
phones are already turned in.
She was upset, I think, because the guy was going to quit, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, because I think she might have told him that she's gonna pay him this, then she found out she was paid.
I think that's
Like,
what it was.
he got upset then.
But he went ahead and came on. Okay.
Was this the same guy?
Yeah, because it was after, I think it was after the budget forms were turned in, but before budget day, that's what it was.
Probably still there.
Then maybe corrections was the last one, but I think we're gonna.
Yes. So you can, whoever goes to that, you can get a little more information.
What kind of specifics do you guys want?
To be truthful with you, I didn't get to study that, because I didn't know if we would cover that tonight. I had a meeting and then I didn't have other stuff together.
Okay.
I really don't know.
Well,
I would ask why IU is so wrong on the labor and wage side.
It was just college kids.
Well, that's why I asked Megan in the advisory meeting, if it was like business school kids for a graduate project, like how do they do that? I don't know, maybe they are wrong. I just don't know why they could be so wrong. Based in the state and sampling other counties. And then Markey kind of showed that it shouldn't be as much, but then you are only working 35 hours. I never really considered it. I knew that was what you worked, but I just never really thought about it that way, so. And that email that you wrote.
I have a question then. We have an assistant director at the community corrections. Would he be the one who steps up as an interim director?
I asked that, and they said yes, and he may apply for the job. Megan was also asked if she got the raise, if they would just all of a sudden give this raise, would she stay and keep the job, and she said no.
That's what, I mean, whenever I found that she was leaving, I thought, and where she was going, I thought that.
That
Probably
she
more
might,
passion, no, just that her passion is more like, it just seems more like helping to transform those lives and not more the manager of the
Paperwork and
like the administration.
apply for
of the
grants.
business. Right.
I'm being honest.
Would you feel like somebody's really passionate about their job doesn't ask for raises all the time? They're not overly concerned about where they're at on the salary basis, so maybe I'm missing something, I don't know. And maybe you're right, that's why she's going to shop, maybe she's making less, I have no idea, so.
I heard she was making less.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know how this person knew, but that's what I was. So I didn't know about dating it too, but, I don't know.
20 people or 17 people versus 220 people or 200 people. I mean, there's a lot of.
Well, you get some, it's so dependent on grants and you're constantly looking for money, bringing more in and, all that kind of stuff. I ran a program that was dependent on a federal grant. It drives you crazy that it raises, or the match I had to do, I had a 20% match, and I said, I'm out running Strassenfest, and if I have a bad night, I lose money and they still gotta pay me because that's the rule, you gotta pay me to be there and I'm in the hole tonight. Oh my God, it just drives you crazy, Those, and that's what it's all these things are so dependent on these grants and everything, and it's gonna be the way it is. Like health department, looking at some of those things out there, so there's gun safety regulations and that can bring in a bunch of mental health money. We need to go after it. Our county needs mental health money, but I don't know if it's gonna be with these guys or not.
Do we have anything else to discuss this evening? Otherwise, entertain a motion to close the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Charlene and Doug.
Thanks everybody for doing the little preliminary work there.
Thanks, Brooke.
Yes, thank you, Brooke.
Thanks, Lord.
You're welcome.